All right, good afternoon, everyone. Today is May 1st, 2023, and I'm going to call the City Council meeting to order. Up first, we are going to do the invocation. Pastor.
Would you bow your heads, please? Almighty God, we give you thanks and praise for all of your mighty works. Thank you that you made us in your image to exist in community with other people. We thank you for our city. Thank you for our elected officials, the businesses, the churches, the families, our schools, and educators. We thank thee for our strong military community and our veterans. We ask you, Lord God, to watch over our law enforcement and first responders. We thank you for this gorgeous beach that we call home and our bountiful Gulf that attracts many visitors from around the world. Protect us from storms that might arise this season and keep us safe from all harm. Thank you, O Lord, for the individuals that make our city the great place that it is. Bless this meeting and all who participate. We give you all the thanks and the glory. In Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior's name, amen.
Amen. Councilwoman?
Please join me with your hand over your heart for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Butler. All right, so up first we'll have a agenda approval. So
Mr. Mayor, I would like to approve the agenda with one change, and that's pulling 3B out of the consent and just putting it.
Fantastic. I was going to do the same.
So yeah, approve it with that change.
All right. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right. Calling the vote. And then confirm.
Matthew,
Guile Sweetser.
just press
Nope.
it again.
There you go. All right. I just have it so moved. All right. So at this time, we will start with the proclamation for the Building Safety Month. Do I have the proclamation? Tamara, is there a proclamation? Oh, you got it right. Thank you.
Go ahead. Good to go.
I was going to have Councilman Guile up here since he's going to be our public safety councilman. All right. City of Destin Proclamation, Building Safety Month, May 2023. Whereas the City of Destin is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential roles of our homes, buildings, and infrastructure playing a both in everyday life and when disaster strikes. And whereas our confidence in the resiliency of our buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of diligent guidance with yours truly, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And here's another one, whereas these guidance are dictated members and the International Code Council, a nonprofit that brings together local, state, tribal, and federal officials who are expected to, in the build environment, to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, work, and play. And whereas these modern buildings code includes safeguards to protect the public from hazards such as hurricanes, snowstorms, because we get a lot of those, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of the community's largely unknown protectors of public safety, our local code officials who assure us of safety, sustainability, and affordable buildings that are essential to our prosperity. And whereas it starts with you, everyone in this room. The theme of Building Safety Month 2023 encourages us all to raise awareness about building safety on a personal, local, and global scale. And whereas each year, the observation of Building Safety Month, people all over the world are asked to consider the commitments to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Bobby Wagner, on behalf of the Destin City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2023 as Building Safety Month. I encourage our citizens to join with their communities in participating in Build Safety Month activities. And with that, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Just keep your eye on our social media, as there will be some postings weekly regarding Building Safety Month. And there'll be some information given, links that you can click on to get some more information about it. Thank you.
And if you missed our wonderful Councilman Guile in a tuxedo talking about illegal contracting and the danger and harm that brings not only to the individual, but the community, we have that on record, and we would happily share that around. It's got some good information, really quick to the point, and I appreciate his efforts as well. So with that, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is this yours?
Yes.
All right, good deal.
Thank you.
All right, so at this point, we will open the floor for public comments. You have 3 minutes. I just need your name and address when the light is on. And is there anything under? If there's anything you're here to speak on for the public hearings, we'll have another portion at that time to speak directly on those. So at this point, if anyone has any public comments at this time, not regarding public hearings A or B, you'll have separate time to do so about that then. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you so much for having me tonight. As you know, I've been up here before, and I continue to be concerned about having a roadway included in the design of the linear park. I think it would be a disaster for a variety of reasons. When you design something like a park with a roadway, you have to begin with the largest element, the roadway. Everything else would have to accommodate it. You obviously wouldn't design a roadway around a path. Roadways do not curve and meander around trees, sand dunes, and telephone poles. They are built straight and level, and all obstacles are removed. The result is that sand dunes would be flattened, trees cut down, and low areas would be filled. The park path would no longer resemble a path, would become nothing more than a sidewalk alongside the new road. Assuming we remove the roadway element from the design, we would have the opportunity to design something entirely different in scope and cost. Gone would be a flattened hardscape, ditches, curbs, swales, and storm sewers. Now, it's my understanding that we have been granted over $270,000 from the state to design a park. I've also been told that we will be matching these funds. Now, I don't know about you, but that's a lot of money to just design a park. We are not even talking building costs yet. I was told that there was a bid by DAG Architects for this design, and the cost is currently being negotiated. If the design can be simplified by eliminating the roadway entirely, then the design cost would change. Design components would simplify, and the design builds will also be less expensive. By eliminating the roadway requirement, the park path could take advantage of the natural topography. The path could be as wide as 12 feet in sections and relatively straight, while in others it could split into smaller paths. These divided paths could meander among the trees, sand dunes, and anything else there. Unlike a roadway, a path would not require moving massive amounts of earth and sand. The low areas currently covered with water or prone to flooding wouldn't have to be filled. We could probably get by with culverts or wooden walkways in some of the areas. This would lessen the impact of the construction on the native plants and animals. Let's face it, the simpler the design, the lower the cost to build, and the faster it will get done. The city engineer estimated that building this park with a roadway would cost between $30 and $40 million. I don't ever see this happening, so why even begin to design it? Hopefully you can see my objective here. I'd like for the citizens of Destin to end up with not just a park, but a great park. And for those of you who like to plan for the future, this is for those who are yet to come. Sometime tonight, I would like to see you all have a discussion about this. Then I'd like someone on council to make a proposal to eliminate any development order or requirement that requires a roadway. From my understanding, it will only take 4 of you to vote for this change. Destin does not need another roadway. We need parks and green space.
Thank you. All right, calm down.
Sandy Trammell, 3823 Indian Trail, Destin. And this is on the consent agenda, but I wanted to bring it to your attention. You have the Fire District Beach Safety Contract. Nowhere in that contract did I read that they will be using or promoting the use of the 2 beach wheelchairs that they have out there for our citizens. We're looking into beach mats. They already have beach wheelchairs which can actually take them all the way out into the water. The fire department controls that, we don't. The Parks and Rec Committee has discussed this, and we are looking into ways that we can assist them in getting some more of those. So please know that that was neglected or left out, or maybe y'all didn't even know that they had them available in the contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Push that button and there you go. Floor is
Hi,
yours.
I'm Marcia Ray. I live at 4120 Indian Trail. And I wanted to talk about the park. I really agree with what Ron has said. And I think that a park would provide a much-needed space where people could safely ride bikes, jog, old people could walk like me, and just enjoy the natural beauty of Destin. A park doesn't have a road running through it. That's just a roadway with a sidewalk. We have those. A park is an oasis. It's a place where you get away from traffic and you get away from all the noise. It's where you meet and you picnic, you ride your bike. I could see the senior citizens Tai Chi group in that park doing our Tai Chi. It's a peaceful place. It has trees and flowers and grass, benches, pathways that meander around the landscape. It's a place you can relax without cars whizzing by you. So please, give us a park, not a roadway.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I'm Greg Smith. I have 2 homes, and one of them is at 900 Gulf Shore Drive. And I just want to let the council know, and Bobby, that I am against the roadway. We have another roadway that's sitting idle off of Beach Drive. It's been that way for years, and I think a roadway, the one that's being proposed, is a bad idea.
Thank you. All right, last call. Seeing none, I'll close the public comments at this time, and we will get into
Do we want to do B item first and then consent, or do we want to go consent and then follow up with B? Is there a preference there? All right, so I'll entertain a motion for the consent of A, C, and D.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, do I hear a second?
Mayor, if I may, I would like to have a little discussion on B.
Okay. Yeah, we
I thought that
pulled.
was D, okay.
Yeah, so we'll
See if
consent
hearing aids don't
A,
work.
A, C, D. All right, calling the vote. All right, ayes have it on A, B, and D. And so at this time, Councilman Schmidt, do you want to start the conversation with, since you pulled it?
Yeah, I'll gladly will. And I see Mr. DiGustino is here as well, so you might need you up here at some point. Just had some questions. I see in our city interlocal agreement, we have a season between May 27th and August the 13th. So does that mean that outside of those, I couldn't find in this agreement what happens outside of that window? Do we know that, or do we need them to come answer?
I think, Joe's welcome to come up and talk about this. He can answer it off the top of his head, but there are additional services on both ends of that. Some of them outlined in the new agreement that they're getting ready to enter into with the county tomorrow.
Right, I'm just speaking specifically about the City of Destin's interlocal agreement that we're having with you guys.
So the question
I
is,
think
I'm
that's
sorry,
what this is, right? The contract for the City of Destin?
what happens after August 13th? Is that
Right.
correct?
Well, what happens between August 14th and May 26th? Because
You mean May 26th and August 14th? I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I have this right. So Memorial Day through about 2 weeks before Labor Day?
what happens outside of that window?
So we have a roving patrol. So the whole system is very similar to like a giant accordion effect. So we start with about 7 roving patrols and 2 supervisors. As we hit Memorial Day, we'll ramp that up. I think we're up to, if you include Crab Island, we're up to 30 positions. That's chairs, towers, roving patrols. The peak of summer here does end at about mid-August. We have this traditional way of thinking that folks are here through Labor Day. We start to see that tail off around the 1st of August. So it's really not beneficial to put that money into the last 2 weeks of August. From Labor Day until the last weekend in October, you'd still have that roving patrol service. So the beach is covered. We just kind of expand and contract with the crowds.
So would it be okay then to put in here that we're going to have roving patrol during those time periods? Because I feel like I've seen it crossed out somewhere or something.
I don't know if we'd want to put it there because I'm not quite sure that you're funding that. I think that would come from the TDD.
So then that's kind of what I'm trying, I got a few questions. so
Sure,
just bear
no,
with
I
me
understood.
here.
I understand. yeah.
So the City of Destin's agreement is only going to be between May 27th and August the 13th. Outside of that, we have no lifeguard duties on our beaches.
No.
Okay. That seems very concerning to me. I'll mention that I'm all about trying to get you guys out there more and everywhere else too. So, who works with the county and the city to do these overlapping agreements? Like, if I look at theirs that's going to them today or tomorrow, there's beach accesses that are mentioned in the counties, but they're also, it seems like they're mentioned in ours as well. Do we have like a representative that's working with y'all and the county to kind of tie them all together? Do we do that, or is it whose responsibility?
When you say the county, are you talking about?
The
still on-
TDC's, the one you sent today, the TDC's county.
Sure, myself, Webb, Warren was working on it, and Jeff. Thank you. Myself, Webb, Warren, Lisa, and Jeff have all been working on this with the fire district for months now, right?
And then do y'all get with the county to also ensure that, we're kind of covered, I
Yes.
guess?
Yeah, we met a week and a half ago again. to finalize this version of what we're presenting.
Joe, do you mind if I call you Joe, or is it division chief? Was there a reason we went with 2 towers at Noriega Beach Park and 1 lifeguard at Osteen Beach Trail there, and removing from the areas down in Crystal Beach? Is there a reason why we went that direction with
Then you
this?
can just put your button on.
So your contract, the one that you have in front of you, says we're going to provide 1 at Osteen and 2 at Noriega, is that correct? And then we removed, can you be specific on
We
which one?
removed,
Shira.
Tarpon, Shira, the shore at Crystal Beach, Hutchison, June White Decker, all these.
I think we're in hopes that the county picks that up. Picks that tab up. If they don't, then that will go, you will still have coverage there. It will not be specific to
Right.
that street entrance, so there will not be a lifeguard in a chair assigned to that. That will just be covered by the roving patrol.
Right. Do you roughly know where on Osteen Trail access we're going to have a tower? I'm sorry, not a tower. Yeah, it will be a tower.
Yeah, it's a tower, so that's.
Do you know where that will be?
Yeah,
over
that's
there?
at the finger jetty. That's basically where that access is. So that's been a hotbed the last few years. I'm sure we've all seen the videos of the rescues and things that happen out there.
Yeah.
I would really hope that we wouldn't remove that
No.
for the greater good of everyone that visits Destin, locals. I mean, that's everybody. There's a lot of stuff happening there right now.
Sadly, I saw we had a drowning a week or so ago at Shira.
We had a drowning on Friday.
Drowning
yes.
on Friday.
We did.
And I saw that somebody, maybe one of y'all's team members, responded.
We did.
Do you have any details of where they were coming from when they
They were
responded?
coming from Shira. They were sitting on Shira. When that man was pulled from the Gulf, he had a pulse.
Right.
There was nothing that anyone could do any better. The 2 people that went to go and get him, one is a Fort Walton Beach firefighter, the other is a former paramedic in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They both swim. If they swam any faster, they'd be in the Olympics. They wouldn't be here.
And I'm not asking a question to
Sure.
question what y'all reacted with how. I'm asking because if that person was on Shira's beach, I would hate it if they were a quarter of a mile or half a mile down the beach roving.
That was a very high probability. There's a very high probability. It just happened to be that they were at Shira at that moment. Yeah, they are. Those were 2 roving patrols that did that. So we always run that risk.
It didn't look like the county's projected one that you are working with them on had Tarpon Beach or Hutchinson. Is that on there proposed? I can't recall.
So I think when we use the word tarpon, we use Old Pier, just because it's easier for us to see the pier pilings than it is to see the crossing the street signs.
So that's where I saw that.
Yeah, so if they've removed that, then we will not have lifeguards there.
Okay. So there's potential, though, that we will not have you guys at Shira,
Correct.
and they won't have, Shira's not listed on either of them.
Then there won't be a lifeguard at Shira.
Okay. Gotcha. And what would it take to put somebody back at Shira and, I guess, what would it take to put somebody else at another 1 or 2 beaches?
So for each lifeguard chair, from Memorial Day till mid-August, you said I had 13th, I just don't have that off the top of my head, is about $21,000.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. When does do y'all know when the TEC thing meets?
It meets tomorrow morning.
Okay. I would love to have some more questions or comments, but I mean, part of me wants to also say if we should table this until after they meet to find out what they're going to do so we can, I don't want to double up on things, but I want lifeguards on the beaches at every potential opportunity that we have, especially the city of Destin's beaches. And so whatever it has to do to get to that point, I want to figure that out. So that's all I got right now. Thank you.
All right. So Teresa, and then I'll go Dewey.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, Joe, who is the coordinator at the county? Because TDD, I'm on the TDC, and we don't meet till the last Tuesday of the month, and tomorrow is the first Tuesday of the month. So it won't be me. If that's what the funding's coming from, is the TDD, or is it the county commissioners that are going to?
It would be the county commission, yeah, so we've been working with.
That's who's meeting tomorrow? Okay.
Yes, yes.
So if we put this off to our next meeting, does that affect what we do with y'all, or you're lining up your folks to get them
So
in chairs?
I've been instructed that all the money's going to be there and to go forward with it. That's the
Okay.
mission that I've been doing. If I have to tell people to go home, I will.
But at this point, you're going forward
I'm
with
going
everybody on
forward
the
with
track?
it, yeah.
Because we definitely, we're hoping that the county does cover that, because the amount that we contribute to the county.
Sure.
I know they do feel that we have earned a little bit more love from them, especially when it comes to lifeguards, because we have more people now than ever on our shores. So, okay, I would vote to table it, but I'll let Dewey say whatever. Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Joe.
Right, Councilman Destin.
Thanks, I got some of the information. The price to put the additional lifeguards in, you say is $21,000?
$21,574.
There you go.
And 24 cents.
Okay, so I'm sure the fire district will be happy to put lifeguards wherever we give them the money to do it. That just gives them more people to cover. Like Kevin, I believe we have a couple of beaches that need more coverage, and we will be discussing that at maybe the next meeting. We're talking about the new properties that we acquired, which is near the ones you're talking about, are the same ones, Kevin. So, ultimately, beach safety is something that should and are going to be heavily involved in, and we want to work with the district to do that. I did notice the wheelchair, whatever we call those things, were struck out. Is that because you're going to make do with the mats you're going to try to put down? It was taken out of the contract, redlined out. What's the thought behind that?
So I'm not aware of us being responsible for any beach mats. I know what they are, but I don't have a lot of experience with them. We have been doing beach wheelchairs at James Lee Park, June White Decker, and Shira Street for as far back as I can remember, from Memorial Day. We'll actually do that through Labor Day. My opinion in that is I like customer service. I like being able to go and provide that wheelchair to that individual so they can be welcomed to Destin, they can see the face, and then it's just how I was kind of brought up. But we'd entertain beach mats if that's the way you folks wanted to go. I have no experience with beach mats. I do know what they are, but I have no experience with them.
Okay, well, I agree with you, but it is redlined out of this contract. Did you guys do that, or did we do that?
I did not do that. That's just as easy as us storing them in sheds and then providing the service. So I don't know why that got redacted.
Do we know, Lance?
That's just the way it was presented to us by Chief Sasser. So
Which? Well, somebody redlined it out.
Chief Sasser redlined it out.
Okay,
I would
Kevin Sasser, Chief Sasser.
I would venture to guess that thought process would have been, if the city's not contributing any money, we probably wouldn't provide wheelchairs at a city entrance. We might just do that at James Lee Park. That would be my thought process of why that would be.
Well, I don't know. Let me read it again to see exactly where it was saying we were, the part that was redlined out here.
It says services for June White Decker Beach Park and the Shore Crystal Beach Park from Saturday Memorial to Labor Day. Reservations only, first time.
So that's so you can put them where you think they're appropriate, I suppose?
Yeah, that for us is the most appropriate, just because the west end of Destin, there's very limited access. So June White Decker Park is just by default. And then that's centrally located in the Crystal Beach area. So that's why that, and then James Lee Park is because it's a county park and they funded it.
Okay, well, I'm not in favor of tabling it tonight. We need to go ahead and show that we do have a commitment to beach safety. And after we find out what happens at the county, then we can come back. So I'll move that we approve.
All right, I have a motion.
Just to confirm, approve with putting back the wheelchair item, or are you approving as is?
I'll leave that up at the moment. I'll leave that, if Mr. Sasser took it out, we can discuss it with him when we come back and see what else we might want to supplement. I mean, at the last meeting, we talked to the city manager about finding out where we could put some more flags and to work with the district to do that, and that's something else we'll address because more flags can't hurt and they're not very expensive.
Sounds good.
All right, so I got a motion. Did I get a second?
Second.
With a second? Okay, so Lance is on the table, so jump on back in.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to point out, For those that didn't have a chance to read what I emailed out earlier today, the county agreement that's going tomorrow calls for 30 chairs. It calls for 4 towers, and that's the May 27th to August 13th for the chairs, and the May 27th to the September 4th for the towers, and then 6 roving patrols. So I think really there's the changes to our agreement, and it took me a while to get my hands around this. Joe will admit, Joe was very patient in explaining it to me. We're just kind of restructuring how the contracts read, and so that we can, between Joe and his team and Pat Maddox and his team can provide the best coverage for both Destin beaches and the island beaches. It's just going to be structured a little bit different in the future as we move forward. But I think with those numbers there, they look very close to where we have been for the last several years. So I don't think the total amount of coverage is going to really change that much this year. And then isn't that right, Joe?
Correct. That's correct.
Then my just last clarification after talking to the chief is, so the 100,000 that we're getting, that's covering Noriego Point and Osteen.
That's correct.
All right, so that's what we know from our money that's going to be guaranteed. Everything else is up to the county, and they're taking care of that. All right.
We hope.
They
They seem very reassuring.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
want to,
I'm
yeah,
sure-
they
I'm
seem
not-
very
I don't doubt them on this
reassuring, but
one.
that's not I can't guarantee that.
Yeah, no doubt. All right.
Mayor, just one more question. The 100,000, that hasn't changed in how many years?
07?
A very long time, Dewey. I don't remember, but it's a very,
That would be
very
the-
long
That
time.
would be the point I'm making. It's been a tremendous increase in the number of people. And October is now about 10% below July. We got to look at that month because that's also hurricane season, and that's the season that the weather's and the rough seas are there. So that's something we'll have to look at later on also.
Yeah, I agree. All right, seeing no further discussion, I'll call the vote. Ayes have it, so moved.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
You can go home now. All right, moving right along, City Manager Lance Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 4A is a financial update for the Harbor CRA. This is just an informational item staff was providing to council, and we have Crystal Strickland here to answer any questions that you have, but we're not asking for any motions on this item.
So just to bring up to the bottom line, this is the long-term trend for the Harbor Community Redevelopment District. As you can see, we currently have a fund balance projected out at about $635,000. I try to maintain a balance of 1 year's worth of debt service in this fund. They also, just as a little reminder, they have committed $6 million of their funds towards undergrounding Phase 1, which in order for us to stay in compliance with our agreement with FPL, we must start this fall. And beyond that, let's see, the CRA district is anticipated to sunset in the year 2043, so there's 20 years remaining in the life of the community of the Harbor CRA district. Our community development people have hired some consultants that are working to update their current master plan for the CRA. And the last page of this item, you'll see there's a projected ending balance in the year 2043 of $7.5 million. So that's basically what they're looking at when they are updating their master work plan and deciding how they would spend out these funds before it sunsets.
All right, thank you. I got a couple of people up. So first up is Councilman Schmidt.
Thank you, Crystal. What would be some of the items that we could utilize CRA funding for?
Under normal circumstances, a CRA would be set up and you'd use those tax incremental funds that come in. So for this district, we have an agreement that we're putting in our millage rate above the base year, and the county is matching our money each year out until the sunset year. Normally, we would build up a balance and we would purchase land, and then we would either sell it to a developer at a discounted rate, or we would put in the infrastructure to attract the right type of development that we want. Like we would put in
well, if we were a normal city, we would put in water, wastewater, ensure electricity comes in. I know, but we're not exactly in the city of Destin, the water and wastewater predates the city. So we're in a different situation. What they did originally was they they widened Main Street and they undergrounded some of the utilities that are along the streets, and they put in pretty streetlights. Gosh, no, that's the town center CRA. Sorry, I'm mixing up my CRA districts. But those are the types of things that they're doing. So ideally, it would be things that would improve economic development, improve the infrastructure, bring in higher quality jobs.
Can you do financing or bonding based on projections like this on a Harbor CRA?
Yes, we can do that.
Appreciate it.
All right, Councilman Destin.
So we're going to have, if I do my math correctly, 400,000 or so, depending on how the tax revenues go, basically a year in addition to what we've pledged to pay for the undergrounding in that district?
That's correct. Next year, we're estimating $850,000 will be coming in from the incremental tax revenues. We are going to borrow up to $6 million towards undergrounding phase 1.
Right.
And rates right now, just being conservative, look to be about 5% is what we're looking at the borrowing rate to be. So yes, the debt service would be 3 to, and I have it going up gradually, hoping we can structure it in a certain way. Actually, I did a few different. See, undergrounding phase 1. Well, undergrounding phase 1 includes more than just the town center CRA, but yes, they would be spending between $300,000 to $500,000 a year on debt service.
Right. Okay, and if I remember correctly, we've used CRA funds to build the boardwalk, Harbor Walk,
That's correct.
and we've also used them to redo Mountain Drive,
That's also correct.
which are
yes.
all infrastructure type things that we're allowed to spend that on. So as long as we are spending it on those type of projects, then it's completely legal to go forward. Thanks.
Councilwoman Aber?
Thanks, Mayor. Ironically, you just finished answering what my question was. But thank you, Crystal, and thanks to your team. Y'all are doing a great job. I'm really glad we got you a nice, full, happy staff. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, seeing no further discussions on the update, I will turn it back over.
Thanks, sir. Item 4B is regarding the Schedule of Fees Resolution 23-06. And those, we had, I think, 6 changes, major changes that we were proposing. The first one was we actually rolled back the Joe's Bayou boat launch fee after getting that direction last meeting to $0 for residents. Then we had increased fees charged for building plan reviews, building construction permit fees, and development orders by 10%. We increased marine application fees, increased business tax receipt fees based on Florida Statute 205.043, and parking fees and parking fines were increased, as well as the addition of insufficient check fee. And that's what we have, and we're asking for council to approve those changes for us.
All right.
I move to adopt Resolution 2306, Schedule of Fees.
All right, I have a motion on the table. Is there a second? All right, and the board is lighting up. Councilman Schmidt.
Well, I was going to see if we could either make a substitute motion or if you want to amend it. I'm looking to cut the Clement Taylor, Leonard Destin, and Morgan's Park picnic and pavilion areas rentals by 50% for residents and non-residential groups.
I'm fine with that.
So if you don't mind, as many of you know, the city of Destin has one of the lowest millage rates in the state of Florida. And one of the reasons that we're able to do that is because we use user fees to help us support all of these programs. We'll be going far more deeper into depth at the workshop in May, on May 23rd. But I just wanted to put out there, there's a resolution from 2003. I just ran out of time. I was not able to add it to this agenda, but I'll be passing that around, and Parks and Recreation are supposed to be supported at minimum 25% by user fees. Last year, they were supported 11%. So the bottom line is we actually need to be increasing our user fees for Parks and Recreation in order to meet that resolution.
So Crystal, if you don't mind, interrupt you. When was that? 2003, you said?
That's correct.
And how do we do the user fee study? How do we determine that it's 11%?
If you open up the financial statements for this past year and you look at the total expenses for culture and
Right.
recreation, and then you compare it to the column right next to it, which is user fees, you can see that Parks and Recreation was covered 11% by user fees.
So if I'm a resident, I want to go rent Leonard Destin Pavilion, it's $100. If I'm a non-resident, it's $150. So my first question is, it's based on user fee, why is it $50 more for a non-resident? What does a non-resident have to do with the user fee?
I'm going to say, when I arrived at the city 3 years ago, the user fees were covering the Parks and Recreation expenditures by about that 25% mark. As you recall, last summer, we increased most of the salaries from $11 an hour up to between $15 and $16 an hour. So but we have not yet had time for the finance and Parks and Recreation staff to meet to look at all of the fees
Okay.
and look at,
When
but
will
we
that
need to do that. It's a
When will
high
that
priority.
happen, that we'll be able to have that brought back to us?
Being honest, I think that will probably happen in July or August because my schedule is too full.
I understand. So in July or August, that we'll potentially have data support to support user fees of why we have all these individual costs and cleaning fees and all these things.
That's
We'll have that
correct.
to support it?
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
so I have shared with Parks and Recreation our new fully loaded cost for an average employee.
Right.
And now they have been collecting data on the number
Sure.
of hours for each place. So yeah, we'll be
I
getting to that.
will take that off, but I will really ask and really would like to see that data to support all these little bitty fees that we charge people for Parks and Rec, if you don't mind. I appreciate it.
All right, Councilman Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. The resolution from 2003 was the opinion of the city council in 2003. Resolutions change with each council. As far as increasing the fees or giving a break to the locals, that's a goal of mine also, Kevin. This resolution could be changed next week at the next meeting. So if you have an opinion on some of these fees that they should be changed, tonight's the night to do it. If the study reflects that we're in fact not charging enough in a month or two, we change it then. Personally, I looked through this and it appears that every fee in here has gone up, some 30%, some a little less, some dramatically more. I would like to know what the total amount of revenue that this fee increase would generate over the year. Crystal, do you have that number for us?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Can you tell us what this fee increase across the board will increase our revenues
So
next year?
we have not made any adjustments to any of the Parks and Rec fees with the exception of Joe's Bayou, the daily, we raised the trailer daily launch if you don't have a permit from $20 to $25. That's the only fee we raised in Parks and Rec.
So we're going forward with increases and we don't really have any idea how much more money it's going to generate over the year?
$5 for Joe's Bayou?
No, not that. I'm talking about exactly what we have in front of us tonight.
What you have in front of us, what you have in front of you tonight does not raise any park and recreation fees.
How much money does it raise, period? Because there are increases across this entire spectrum of fees.
Yes, that's true, but those fees are, a lot of them, the bulk of them are with the building department, which, as you know, is by state, those fees can only be used to support building code enforcement. And then also, we've raised fees in the parking fees, and those are also committed by council to only addressing parking issues.
Yes, and both the state law and the council says that we can't charge more than the actual cost of providing the service. They don't say we can't charge less. Is that correct?
We cannot charge less. If we charge more, we have to return the excess to the people who paid for those permits.
Does state law prohibit us from charging less?
No, state law does not prohibit us from charging less, but that would just have to be picked up by some other revenue source, like the general
Exactly.
fund or property taxes.
The point I make is that we're going forward to raise all these fees without the study. You know, I'm willing to support it at the moment, at least some of them, and I'll make some motions to reduce some of these others as we go forward. But when we get the study in a month or two, you know, it'll be my intention to make motions to reduce some of them down to the actual cost of providing the fees. And so, you know, we need that study. In my opinion, it's premature to go ahead at this point without the study. And, you know, most of these things that we have before us in council meetings are supposed to have a legislative sponsor. I looked on the legislative sponsor on this resolution. I don't see one. Anybody legislate this increase? Sponsor?
I'll nominate myself.
No, you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, well, look, oh darn.
It's just, it's a side point I make that we have things in front of us. There's no legislative sponsor, which tends to make me believe perhaps staff is a legislative sponsor. Staff, you're not allowed to legislate.
Yeah, this all started when there was a council request to adjust our parking fees.
There was.
And then, and we've been working on the study for the building permits with 3TP for, 18 months now. And, yeah, all of these were approved. I remember all of this being brought to council back in, was that December? November. In November, the building fees and impact fee studies were brought to council, and the building fees were approved at 10%. And the impact fees have yet to be approved.
Well, then under legislative sponsor, it shouldn't be blank. It should say city council. Is that correct?
Sounds correct, yes.
Just wondering why we have resolutions we don't follow. The only other point I would make is on the parking fees that we are increasing from $5 to $20, and I suppose it says it's for 24 hours, but I really don't think we allow overnight parking in the parking lot. If we do, I'm going to go park my RV there and be able to spend the night down in the harbor. The problem is most people park in these parking lots for a few hours when they go to a restaurant or they go to some other entertainment down in the harbor. In Pensacola, where they have done a very good job on remodeling and bringing back downtown, they allow parking to be paid for by the hour. And I question why we can't do that. Our app doesn't allow it, perhaps. If that's the case, we need a new app. But to charge the $20, as I have voiced on numerous occasions, to go from $5 to $20 is pretty outlandish, in my opinion. Our object is to have people come into those parking lots. Now we are charging the same amount that they do at Emerald Grand, not company that I appreciate being part of. $20 is too much. And I will make an amendment, a motion to amend to set the parking fee at $10. That way we'll fill our parking lots up first before the people that are charging $20 do. In addition to that, we would double our revenues from last year. Seems to me to be at least a reasonable step rather than to raise it by $20. After all, we're now finally completing a park on the harbor that we've spent close to $6 million of public funds for. The only way anybody can go and park, to go to that park, would be to pay the $20 across the street. A little bit of an outlandish situation, in my opinion. So I will offer an amendment to lower or to set our parking fee at $10 rather than $20.
All right, Michael?
So this is for the Harbor District only?
Yes.
For all-day parking, because the beach parking was also affected by that recent change, so,
It was, I'm talking about the Harbor District.
okay,
And-
thank you.
And I would include into that motion the investigation of getting a parking app that will allow us to sell parking by the hour rather than in 24-hour increments.
All right, so I have an amendment. who's
Dewey,
this?
can I just clarify from Robert's rules? It's a motion to amend the main motion.
Yes.
So you want to vote, so council, we don't do this a whole lot. Usually we'll do substitute motions, but what would happen is you would vote on Dewey's motion first. If
Go
it
back.
passes, then you would vote on the main motion, which would or would not be amended depending on your vote.
Okay. All right, so, yeah, with
Mayor, I
this
have a-
amended motion, so do I hear a second on Dewey's amended motion? I'll second that. All right, with a second, any further discussions on,
I have a question, Mayor.
yeah,
Do we have to repeal the previous motion?
No, it's a motion to amend it. So if that motion passes, then the main motion is amended, and then we would have to vote on the main motion again.
I'm referring to the motion to increase it to the $20 in the past. We don't have to repeal that?
I'm sorry, Ray. You're talking?
Okay, there was a motion to increase the parking fee to $20. That
Yeah.
passed.
But before, what we discussed was, since this is in a resolution format, the council you could amend the resolution every meeting if you wanted to. So you can do it in the setting.
all right, so I'm going to keep going. Does everyone be okay if I keep going on this list of conversation for this motion? Yeah,
So technically, you're supposed to discuss the amendment.
exactly,
at
yeah,
this
so,
time- At this time.
is
yeah.
everyone on here? Yeah, so Councilman Guile, do you have anything on this amended motion?
Yes, sir. I have a question. So something Mr. Destin just mentioned, or Councilman Destin, I apologize, sir. To use the park, you have to pay $20, but if you are a Destin resident, you don't pay anything.
That's right.
So we're looking at non-Destin residents paying the $20 to utilize the park, not Destin residents, correct? Correct. Okay, so then I wouldn't support that because it doesn't affect our Destin residents, it affects the visitors. Am I still allowed to ask Crystal a question based off this amendment or the suggested amendment or not?
As long as it's on the parking, because after we're done with the parking, we're going to go back and do
Okay.
that other
Then
motion.
I'll wait till we're done with this.
All right, so Councilman Sweetser, do you have anything on the 20 to 10 parking amendment? All right, Councilwoman Abear.
And I do, in the same respect as what Mr. Gile said, our locals get a parking pass to park for free. We're trying to make some revenue so we can continue to increase what we have for parking, so ultimately we can build a parking garage, and we can't lower a $20 down to $10, which is not going to affect our residents because they have a sticker. So everyone's going to be paying $20 to park, all the visitors and those that are non-residents. I think we should leave it at $20 versus dropping it down to 10. That's just my thoughts on that.
All right, Councilman Destin, rebuttal.
I would just point out that we have a severe parking problem in the harbor. It's not caused by the residents. It's caused by the people who come here and make a living for all of us. And at $20, I think we're treating them pretty shabbily, and we're only exasperating the issue we have with parking. And so, as I said earlier, $10 is a 100% increase. 20, if we're just trying to soak the tourists, let's make it 100. I don't, let's be reasonable.
All right, Councilman King.
Tori was 100% on board with that. Yes, let's do it. I would say I can get on board with that a little bit. I would, not to amend it again, but I'd be more inclined to go to 15. That keeps a better revenue stream coming through. It makes us competitive with the other parking places, and I think I think we gather the same people for like a little bit more money. That's what I would recommend. That would be my recommendation is not do 20, but let's do 15.
Yeah, I thought that made more sense as far as being across the street, kind of having that step-down price. Other than that,
I will amend my motion. 15 is still too much in my opinion, but I would like to see us cheaper than the other vendors on the harbor that are charging 20, so people will come into our parking lot.
I can get on board with 15.
yeah, I would as well. Yeah, I think you're going to get some votes on that one. All right.
In the heart of cooperation, I'll agree.
Oh, I appreciate that. All right, I'm going to call the vote for a $20 to $15 parking change.
Mr. Mayor, can I interject one thing?
Jump on in.
I am so sorry about
That's
this.
okay.
So we're still keeping the 205 non-resident pass.
Correct.
That's staying in there. And just one comment about the hourly parking that you'd mentioned earlier. Passport, who is our parking services provider, they get a piece of every transaction. So if it's an all-day transaction, they get one flat fee. But if it's an hourly transaction, they get flat fees per hour. So every time you add another hour, it's kind of like putting money in a parking meter. They get a percentage of that every time the meter expires.
We're under contract with them, I take it?
We have an agreement, yeah, we do have an agreement with Passport.
How long does it last, you know?
I'll have to go back and take a look at
My
that.
point being that Pensacola, that does a wonderful job of managing that downtown, they've figured it out somehow without losing all their money. I'm sure we
Sure.
can do the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I've reached out to a few different ones, the ones that toll by plate and technology based, to where it would be seamless. We wouldn't need code compliance there. And so I'll start shooting over everyone that I've talked to in the previous weeks after all this.
What I'd recommend, council, if y'all want to look at that contract, maybe we bring it back at a council meeting, and then if you want to rebid those services out, let's take a look at the termination provision, but then you should probably rebid the services out. If that's,
Sounds like a plan.
if that's the route
I
you
have a
wanna go.
question, real quick for you. If they have different fees per hour per day, can we offer different prices, like an elevated hourly rate? But the day would be, if you averaged out the day, if you did 8 hours, you'd basically have a day price discounted.
Yeah, I'll have to contact Passport and see if that's an option. Right now, I can't speak intelligently about the variety of pricing.
From the little bit I gathered, Passport's a little outdated, and I think a new vendor would probably
Be able to-
accommodate all of that. Yeah, so all right, we've got the vote right now for a $20 to $15 harbor parking with a $205 yearly pass. All right, calling the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. And the right. So now we're going to go back to the original motion. So amended, thank you. Okay, so with that, do we have the motion reiterated? Ray?
Ray, do you need a reiteration of what the motion is to approve?
Motion to approve the resolution of fees as amended.
Okay, so Councilman Guile?
Now it's okay for me to ask Crystal.
Yeah, now, floor is yours.
Hey, Crystal, how are you today?
Great, thank you, Councilman Guile.
I do have a question for you because I want to make sure I understand completely before I pass any votes. On the Park and Rec, you said it's typically, we try to achieve a 25% user fee. Last year, we were at 11% for the usage fee for the Parks and Rec. My question is, and I hear this from residents all the time, and I need clarification for myself. I hear residents tell me, we pay for that park in our taxes, but I think I've read something somewhere that that's not the case. Can you clarify that for me?
Yeah, that's true. So it all comes down to how you fund a city. And I believe that our forefathers purposefully set that 2 millage cap. That's 0.2% maximum that we can do on property taxes to get the city incorporated. And when you set a millage rate so low, or a cap so low, and then you keep your millage rates really low, then you need to find alternate sources to maintain everything. Like in the case of the city, over 50% of our city staff, personnel, and our costs are all related to Parks and Recreation. So instead of increasing property taxes to cover all of those costs, we try to cover them with user fees.
So then our options are try to amend the mill cap or just try to keep the usage fees up. I mean, those are the two options to pay for this. Except I'm not challenging our forefathers, obviously, because I saw how quick Dewey's hand moved when I said that.
All right, Councilman Forefather?
I disagree with that analysis. Destin contains 30% of the entire assessed value in the county. That's why we can have a 2-cent mill cap. If when you contain 30% of the assessed value in a very small area like this, and you can't get by on 2 mills, raising the fees on everything else is not going to save you. You're already living far beyond your means.
Okay, anyone else on this discussion for the motion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. Do we want to have a motion for the relooking at Compass and having staff bring anything back for another service provider on that? I mean, I can't make a motion, I need you guys to. Oh, yeah, I moved now. Okay. Calling the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. Appreciate that. All right, Lance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 4C is Captain Royal Melvin Heritage Parks Rules and Regulations. I'm happy to inform the council that I was at the site just before this meeting began, and our building official was down there alongside me, and we are very, very close to a completed park. And Mr. Buckingham, who's not here tonight, but I appreciate all his efforts in pushing that forward. They've gotten more done probably in the last 30 days than I've seen done in the last 5 months. So it's very, very close. We will absolutely be ready for a soft opening before Memorial Day, and we are working on getting some of the descendants of Royal Melvin here to participate in the dedication ceremony, and probably won't be till July because of their availability, but we will get that done too. That being said, since we're close to officially open, we need to take care of a few housekeeping matters. Number one is the operating hours generally for a park is from sunrise to sunset, and that wouldn't work for that facility because of its location. So what staff is recommending is we go from sunrise to an hour after sunset, which should keep the restroom facilities, playground facilities open during good hours for all seasons because of the way the time works for us. So we're recommending that. The second thing is closing the park at an hour after sundown, but making a specific allowance for pedestrians to traverse north and south through the park, because one of the main reasons we started that park facility was to be a gateway down to the harbor from our parking area. So we don't want to disallow them to go back to their vehicles in the evenings. So an allowance for pedestrians to traverse north and south, but not to loiter. And if it's worded that way, I think we can enforce that. Third is to align the park's alcohol policy with that of the current festive marketplace. So that would be to allow for open alcohol on that park property. We have allowances in 2 other park properties by ordinance to allow in certain situations, so we can amend that ordinance and bring that back if council is so inclined. I would recommend we do align with the marketplace because it will be very, very difficult to enforce that with the number of people, even that we're walking through there today when it's not even officially open. So there's going to be good traffic through that park. Fourth is to allow for the future establishment of a water taxi pickup drop-off point in the waters adjacent to the park. A few years back, we had one of those. It is aligned with some of our strategic goals and plans, and would help obviously hopefully take some vehicles off the roadway if we encourage people to use the waterways. So I would ask for council's allowance for that to take place in the near future. And finally, and this is thanks to the Parks and Recreation Committee, which we did bring all these items to, they noticed that we had left out that leashed dogs are permitted on the boardwalk, so we should allow leashed dogs through this park. And so that would be the 5th allowance for this park that staff is asking for council to direct me to bring those items back to make those official.
All right, so I got a couple. Councilman Destin?
Thank you, Mayor. The sunrise to sunset, the only issue I see there is it's an entranceway to the Harbor Walk, which is busiest from about sunset till 12 or 1 in the morning. And so the bathrooms are also contained here. And one of the objects of this park was to provide bathrooms for the people that are going up and down. So if we're going to close it at an hour after sunset, are we going to close the bathrooms off also?
That was staff's recommendation, but council can choose to do it a different way. We would
Yeah,
just
that-
have to make staff available to close them and clean them at different hours.
That would probably defeat the purpose of why, one of the reasons we built it. So I would say the bathrooms need to stay open. I don't know, do you need motions in that direction?
If you can just give me an idea of the hours you want those open, or, I don't think we can leave them open all night, or we would be,
Yeah, till 10:30, midnight, some time around then, because they are
What do we have
really-
what do we have on the clock right now? When does our last Parks employee go home right now?
well, I don't think we have to look at it like that. I appreciate that, but we also have code on until later hours that could help us out.
Yeah, well, they
locking
could
it up.
close them at the time and clean them in the morning for that matter, couldn't they? Yeah, so I would say that place is pretty busy at 10:30. They are
Yeah.
wandering up and down there, and that is probably the busiest time of the night for that bathroom.
It's either in the bathroom or on the tree, right? Anyone want to throw out a date or time?
I say midnight.
You
Yep,
said
I
10?
would
say
say,
midnight.
I would say midnight would be
Midnight?
probably a good time. And of course, if you're gonna leave the bathroom up, we can't say you can't loiter in the park, because it's a little hard to go to the bathroom without loitering, I suppose. So I'm not sure what we accomplished with the no loitering at all, nor how we would enforce it. So I would just say the hours are till midnight.
Very good.
Yeah, and I would also suggest no overnight sleeping, because I have a fear that we'll have some of our local homeless that will decide they should sleep there, and if it closes at 12, then they're gonna have to go somewhere else. That's all I have, Mayor.
We'll bring that back in the proper format.
So I guess from our captain standpoint, if we do have some, overnighters, what does that look like? Would we call you guys to help us escort out?
Yeah, once the park's closed, y'all can call us and we can issue trespass warnings and arrest them if they don't leave.
All right, thank you. All right, Councilman Guile.
No, me.
Oh, sorry. Councilwoman Abear.
Thank you, Mayor. I was on the same track with Dewey that, fireworks don't even start till 9 o'clock every Thursday night throughout the summer months. So you're looking at 9:30, 10 o'clock when most people are wandering out. So if we shut them down at midnight, lock the park up, code compliance can easily do that, and then we have the cleanup crew in the morning. And since the sheriff said they can basically follow up, once code locks it up, if there's problems, all code has to do is call the sheriff, say, I've got, some bum trying to sleep here, or whatever. So that was what I wanted to make sure of. So thanks for making the time adjustment and getting that back to us, Lance. Thank you.
All right, now Councilman Guile.
That's not the first time I was referred to as some bum, but. Now, I would just like to put some type of note in the ordinance or some way that it's written that the water taxis, if they do pick up there, they have to deliver to a land-based dock. Something that is a land-based dock. They can't deliver to a boat or a barge or a party vessel or a pontoon.
Or a crab island.
That something stipulates that it's absolutely to a land-based dock.
That's gonna be tough to do, I think. How are we gonna enforce such a thing?
I think, Louis, can we incorporate that into the licensing for the water taxi?
I think we probably need to take a look at the current policy in the comp plan and beef that up to capture the cantonment point.
Yeah, I like that. All right, Councilman Schmidt.
Thank you. Does our staff do bathroom cleanup? So when they're talking about doing the opening, we have staff a certain time that would be able to come up there before sunrise and clean it?
Yeah, we have we have our own staff that does it, and we have some contract services.
So is it potential, so we could potentially do a contract service for this park then?
Potentially, yeah.
I mean, I don't frequent down in the Festa Marketplace as often as I used to, but I have done it probably more so recently than some others up here. These bathrooms will possibly be handled in a different manner than a bathroom at Clement Taylor or a bathroom at Calhoun or a bathroom like that. So I understand the purpose of keeping them up open, but it might come back to haunt us possibly if we're having public bathrooms at midnight on the harbor. So, but I guess we'll wait and see. No, I mean, even if you do it at 10 p.m., I think you're still going to have the potential problems of the people enjoying the festive marketplace and utilizing the bathrooms. I'd prefer to contract this cleaning out on these particular bathrooms would be my opinion. I don't want to put our city staff through that. I don't really want to put anybody through that, but if I have to choose. So yeah, I would just, keep that in mind that,
Lance, can you put that in the document to make?
Yeah,
that
Lisa, you need that in a motion?
Do you want that in a motion, Lisa?
no. Well, they wanted a motion to approve all of these rules here, so.
It's for the subcontract, I agree.
Oh, well, that's up to Lance.
Yeah, if you let us work on that, work through it, there's disadvantages to contracting out. And we've tried it, and we've had some good experiences and some bad experiences, so.
And your recommendations were sunset. There's a reason for that, I can only imagine. So I know we can, as a council, do what we're doing, but, I'm just concerned about midnight, to be honest, or even 10 o'clock, so. But we will, I'm just happy it's opening, so thank the Lord, hallelujah. Here we go.
All right, Councilwoman Aber?
I think like in everything, if we see after a couple of weekends that it's just turned into a nasty room, then we shut it down at an hour after sunset and tell people, we tried to stay late, but we got a clientele using the bathroom that didn't know how to use the bathroom properly. So we can change it. That's why we're up here, trying to do what we can, and we can always change it if it doesn't work. And we won't wait a month. We'll look at it one meeting. You let us know, Lisa. All right?
All right.
So I'll move to direct city manager to bring back the required ordinance and our resolution revisions as discussed here. We good?
Second.
Yep, all right. Further discussion, Lance, you got something?
Yeah, and I hope this isn't out of line, but we do have the chair of the Parks and Rec Committee here. I didn't know if she wanted to weigh in on this at all.
Anything? Yes, jump on in.
I'm there in October, right? And those people don't get out until midnight or later. So one of the things that Parks and Rec discussed was during special events, the closing time would be an hour after the event closed. So that way, we didn't have to modify it on Tuesdays or Fridays or whatever, but that was allowable, and we could tell code or the sheriff's department or whoever. But that was the only thing that I think Lance did not mention was, yes, for special events, they have to get a special event permit, so we'll just know when to close them and when to keep them open. That's all.
All right, Councilmember Sweetser?
Yeah, I'm going to jump on with the contracting out for the cleaning. I don't know if that's going to be good or not, but if we do that, I think we need to include some of the other busy parks. Why would we give that one special attention just because it's used more? I understand that. But we also have children and people at the other parks, and those bathrooms are pretty bad. Lisa doesn't have the staff to get them out there enough to keep up with them, especially June White Decker. If we're gonna do a contractor to come clean, I think it needs to be the majority of our most used parks and not just Captain Royal Melvin, if we can.
Appreciate that. My personal hope is that you would just give us the latitude to work with whichever one we can fulfill at that given time. Because it's hard to hire people, and it's not always easy to keep the contractors at the quality of service that we want them at, so.
And can I add, we have had contract services before, and these bathrooms, when we're busy, a contract service is going to come once a day, whatever. You do realize that our staff goes all day long from open to close, and they hit those restrooms over and over and over again. So it's not a one or a evening and a morning, it's all day long.
Thank you for that. All right, so I have a motion, and do we have a second?
Yep.
All right, so I'll call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
Item 4D is an update on the permitting process criteria and the timeline, and we have Mr. Louis Nguzzi and Noel Bell to address this item.
Mayor, council members, good evening. Do I have a PowerPoint up there? The PowerPoint? That's okay. Before I share the efforts that we are currently undertaking regarding our development review and permitting processes, let me just take this opportunity to give you some context on how we're going about that business. From my experience, there are 4 key elements to an efficient development review process. And the elements are, 1, you've got to have clarity in your regulations and requirements. These are the rules of engagement that are involved in the process of getting a permit or an approval. Second, you've got to have clarity in the processes for review. This is a delineation of the different types of applications and permits and the steps that leads towards an approval. 3, you've got to have an effective and robust application review and permitting tool. That is either a software system or some other kind of capture tool that makes the applications available for review and approval. And finally, number 4, you've got to have quality staff. And quality staff comes in 2 ways. One is you've got to have what I call hard skills. This is the knowledge of the rules, regulations, and requirements, and also the knowledge about the industry itself. And then soft skills relates to how the staff is able to communicate and help and assist customers to navigate through the complex development process. So using those 4 elements, let's try and look at our situation. With respect to the clarity of requirements, as you know, we have an outdated land use development code, which we're in the process of rewriting, and that has an impact on how we're currently conducting business today. Regarding the clarity of processes, we have gone a long way in that regard. We have delineated our approval process and permit applications into 3 distinct classifications based on the type and the review requirements. We've got Class 1, these are basically your trade permits. Examples are like a water heater change-out, AC change-outs, and things like that. And these are primarily just done by our permit techs, and they do not require any building information from a code standpoint. And then we got Class 2, which covers things like roofing, renovations, repair and replacement of roadways, and this require a combination sometimes of building code requirements or the engineering standards for review. I'm going to back up here. And then Class 3 is composed of 2 types. One type covers mostly the new structures, additions, commercial, residential, and pool installations. This requires multiple reviews by all our divisions in the department. And then the Class 3B are your most complex projects that we have. These are the major development orders, change of use projects, major subdivisions, and the like. Regarding our system of capture of the applications, as you know, we have the Compass system. Like any other system, it has its challenges. We're into a year and a half process right now as far as implementation is concerned, and we're still having some challenges that we're going through in terms of refinement. Personnel, I have to be candid with you folks in that I am extremely proud of my staff. That despite the challenges of an outdated LDC and the implementation challenges that we've had with Compass and the staff shortages that we have, my staff have managed to continue to serve the customers professionally and with distinction. This, for me, I think, makes me have a good sense that they have in them the whole notion of life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. So what is the progress to date as far as I am concerned? Apart from the qualitative aspects of our work, which is customer service and the like, I look at three key components. These are benchmarks. One is the turnaround times for our work. For instance, we have now moved from 13 days of review for Class 1 type of permits to just 2 days on average. And that is an 84% improvement in our process. Two, I think you can see it up there. The volume of applications has tremendously increased too. Between 2001 and 2021 and 2022, we've seen an increase from 3,775 applications to 5,743 applications. That is a 31% increase in the total permits that we are working with. The third aspect that I look at is the revenue that's coming in. We've seen an increase of about $1.2 million, from $1.2 million to $1.8 million. That's a 46% increase. So, let me end with this. I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that everything is just fine. Far from it. We've still got ways to go, making improvements. For example, we still got to finish rewriting the LDC, which is our rule book. We also have a lot of fine-tuning that we got to do with the Compass system. And also, we still got stuff to fill. However, this is what I can categorically say to you, is that we're making tangible progress and trending in the right direction. That is what I have for you, and I hope to give another update as we move forward with this process. I have the building official here with us, and also the principal planner to help me answer any questions that you may have.
Right. Councilman Guile, you're up first. Lighten up.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for that presentation. And I wanted to thank you and your staff. I'm a licensed contractor here, and I operate out of Destin. I utilize Compass on a daily basis, and I run into issues with it. But I think the majority of the issues that I run into are due to the fact we don't have an IT director that's helping us fine-tune this software to make it more user-friendly. But anytime I call with an issue, your staff is on the ball, ready to help me through the situations and helping try to find the software glitches where they're not communicating from phase to phase. But as a Class 2, based off your definition, I see permit turn around in 2 days every time. I rarely go 3 days unless I failed to do something in my permit process properly. But I truly, truly appreciate how helpful your staff is and how willing they are to work with somebody over the phone when they run into these issues.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, up next, Councilwoman Abear.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to tell you that I've had several neighbors that have put in permits to get stuff done. The guy across the street from me is doing a major renovation, and he commended the staff. He said, I had no idea what I was doing. He said, and they were so helpful. I was trying to go through the system, and they basically hand-walked me through, which I'm sure they didn't really have time to do. So when I look at the amount of permits, over 5,000, and the increase, and of course, the hundreds of thousands of dollars more that we're making because we have more people doing stuff, I only hope that we've given you the right amount of staff, but if we haven't and you see you need more, you need to let us know, because your department are doing a phenomenal job. And as their leader, I'm sure, it's from the top down, your personality, your attitude, and the way you work, and that's why they want to work with you and for you. So well done. I think it's going great, and I appreciate what y'all do, especially for the citizens that have told me that they've had great success getting their permits and things approved and taken care of. So thank you, Louis.
Thank you. And it's a challenge on a daily basis. But what I just want to make sure that the council does appreciate is that every one of my staff members, their goal is to serve. And we do silly things from time to time. We misread the code, and we take a wrong turn as far as the review is concerned. It's just normal. Yeah, we're humans. But at no time when somebody just raised a problem like Councilmember Torrey just mentioned, my staff goes over and above to try and solve that problem. So we're trending in the right direction, and I think a year or two from now, we'll be in a much better place as far as turning these small permits around. So,
All right, Councilmember Schmidt.
Thank you. Thanks, Louis. I really appreciate this. I echo what everybody's saying about you and the staff and everybody, inspectors, secretaries, and all across the board. Great job by everybody. When do we start doing the class 1, 2, 3A, and 3B classification and grouping? Was that recently to track the timing, prioritize them?
Well, it's been coming through. Some of you have seen that board back there. We've been scribbling from it. It's close to about 7-8 months when we really started rolling with it. It was an essence of getting together with staff and say, how can we make this easy on us as well as the customers? And so we're fine-tuning the process as we go, but we like where we're at.
So, a couple questions, comments as well. A year or so ago, we talked about maybe this new contractor that we recently signed on can help with this, but putting out some YouTube videos of the basic process of the Compass system. Is that still on the to-do list in the future?
Yes, as a matter of fact, last Thursday in our coordination meeting, the building official will be undertaking that task in the next coming months.
Got it. Awesome. And then recently, our PIO was speaking about a mail out that working on for parking stuff or tips and things.
Yeah, we were talking about just benefits to Destin residents, but particularly because of all the parking misunderstandings and miscommunications.
So not that, but similar. I would be surprised if people knew Class 1 permit requirements. Just because, assuming these are actually correct here, AC change out. All these things, right? Maybe we should look at similar benefits of Destin as if there's ever a month, I guess right now it's building appreciation month, right? I know we're gonna do it on Facebook, but, you
Building
know,
Safety Month.
Safety Month. But I mean, just because a lot of times people get in trouble or whatever because they didn't know. And a lot of Class 1 permitting, I would assume most people don't know. I didn't know a lot of these. So maybe something to look at in the future, sooner than later.
Absolutely. yeah.
Education.
That's, we like to, as much as we can.
And not about
put something
revenue,
out
it's
there.
more about the safety of
Sure.
making sure they're doing it
Yeah,
right.
that makes sense. It's something we look into. Yeah.
Thank you, Louis. Appreciate it.
All right, Mr. King.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, Louis, thank you for the presentation. And just, I wanted a round of applause for what you've been able to do, the way you've led your staff, and just hats off to you guys and gals. And so, thank you very much. This was something that I don't know if I don't think maybe I didn't originally bring this up, but I brought this up. I had several people reach out, like Ms. Zaber, about permitting and this and that, and some gripes they had with it. And so those people have stopped calling. They used to call all the time, and they've stopped calling. And it seems like if I followed up with them, I'm sure they would agree with this. So well done. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. I congratulate on the progress that you've made. And I know that you all have worked hard on it. You and I have discussed on various issues the need to try to put a committee together. We talked about the Land Development Code. And I think this would be a primary place for you to get a group of the engineers and the contractors and let you pick a group, just talk to them, and bring back an update for us in July on what other progresses that you have made. And I would ask the city manager to facilitate that, because I can't tell you to do anything. The city manager, if you would work with Mr. Lewis to facilitate just an exchange with the community engineers and the contractors, so he can bring back suggestions to us when he does his update in July. I think that would go a long way. And I have one other question, just because it's been asked of me several times. A resident of Destin comes in to apply for a permit, comes to the office. They don't have a smartphone. Is there a way that they can apply? Do you have a computer terminal they can use? Do you have staff that could help them? Because I've talked to several people who really don't have the skills, but they want to come to City Hall and apply for a permit. What do we do in that kind of situation?
To answer your last question first, yes, we do have terminals outside here, and also my staff can actually still take the hard copies, and we convert them for them, and they get to make the application. So no one is denied at all to go through the process. With respect to your first comment, as a matter of fact, we have started that effort of reaching out to the development community, especially the engineers. Our new engineer here has come up with all the design components for roadways and driveways and so on that we will be incorporating into the new LDC as part of our design manual. And that has gone out to all the engineers that we are aware of, that we associate with, for them to have a head start and give us comments back. I'll be more than happy to convene a meeting with them and see how they're seeing that and what impact it will have on their operations. And so
And that's pretty much,
it's a dialogue that we really are out there encouraging.
that's the kind of input that I would like to see. And I know you know the engineers and the contractors that you can converse with. And Mr. Giles, being a contractor, if I may, and he would accept, I would ask him to be the council liaison to you in that group. So that he could kind of at least be shepherd over and make sure that the recommendations make it back to us. Mr. Giles, could you do that?
I would love to do that, and I appreciate you asking me to do that,
Well,
Councilman Destin.
I'll make that in the
Thank you.
form of a motion that we
Second it.
assign
All right, let's
council
seal his
liaison
fate.
to Mr. Giles.
All right, calling the vote.
Call a vote.
I can't wait to return the favor.
All right. Yeah, it'll be like food and health safety. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. Item 4E is a linear park update by Mr. Jeff Kozad.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. We had several meetings with DAG over the last couple weeks, and they have requested that they have until May 10th to bring back a fee schedule and actual schedule for completion of the project, and we'll have it on their next agenda if they're back at the 10th, which they say they will be. In addition to that, the discussions have yielded the fact that we are probably going to need more time than the grant agreement allows. So we've already went ahead and initiated the process of asking for an extension, and that is being routed at FDOT right now for signatures. So hopefully, if that gets routed quickly enough, it'll be back as well on the 15th.
Councilman Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. The linear park update, I noticed that, we had public comments tonight, and I've continued to get comments, people that call me. FDOT is involved in this. Are they generally involved in a park? How did they get into this equation?
When we asked for the state appropriation, that they decided that FDOT was the most appropriate entity at the state to allocate that money to us through that grant.
And why wouldn't it be DEP or someone else who's more accustomed to helping build and design parks?
I can't speak for the state in that regard. They're the ones who made that decision.
Okay, would it have anything to do with the fact that we're tying it in with a road?
I think the original appropriation paperwork that I put in made little to no mention of roadway.
I'm sorry, they put it in where?
The appropriation request that I put in through Representative Maney's office, I don't think made a significant mention of a roadway design as a part of the project.
Okay, but we're still tying it in with a roadway, is that correct? When we meet with Florida Power and Light and somehow FDOT, we're still designing a road to go in also?
That would be one phase of this. Phase one would be the park design. Phase two would be a road design.
I missed the meeting. Did we ever vote to build that road? No. I would make a motion, or I'd ask the city manager to cease all work on the road until we get the park done, period. Because after speaking with representatives with Florida Power and Light, as you know, we've been getting a little pushback. Their pushback is primarily because we're trying to put a road down 2,000 feet of their power transmission easement. And that was not our original intention, nor have we voted to do such. City manager, we've tried to make it as clear as we can to go forward with the linear park, leave the road alone at the moment. I can put that in a form of motion to tell staff to cease any work, spending any time on the road design or construction until such time as the park is designed. And as far as permitting through DOT, I don't know why DOT is involved in it myself.
Councilman, yeah, I just wanted to chime in, not on that specifically, but maybe procedurally to help you with this, is the way we've structured the DAG contract is council's going to have to issue task orders, and task orders will come to council. So if council only issues a task order for the park, that's what gets done. Of course, the RFQ did include, I think, both the park and the road, but with this task order setup, the council will have control over what DAG is specifically designing. So you can make that motion tonight, or you can incorporate it into your task order process when it comes back to you, hopefully at the next meeting.
Well, I would feel more comfortable making the motion because the RFQ still includes a road that we've not approved.
The RFQ did, but the contract itself does not designate the actual scope of work. It's going to be specifically in those task orders.
I understand we could simplify it perhaps. Do we have to go back and change the RFQ?
I don't believe so. It was part of it. You have discretion within that project scope to do what you wish. So.
Okay, well, I appreciate hearing the opinions of the rest of the council, but, we think we make it clear each time, and yet we're still marching in that direction. Anybody else have an opinion on that?
Oh, yeah, that's a Christmas tree right now. All right, Councilman Sweetser?
Again, I have to agree with Councilman Destin. If it's going to be a park, it needs to be a park. If it's going to be a road, it needs to be a road, one or the other. I understand that with it being the length that it is, we will need to have access for emergency vehicles to be able to get back there, but that needs to be it. We don't need another road, nor do we need to cut into people's backyards. We don't need to add more walkways over the wetlands off Twin Lakes. It needs to be a nice walking trail and not a road. There's no point in having a road there unless it's going to serve Olympus, which I don't see how it would, but let's take it off.
Councilman Guile?
I have a couple questions. Incorporating the road in the design, does that increase any delays in the procedure whatsoever? Is that a timeline delay by having that road in there, in the design portion of this?
Again, with the structure, we had the contract with the task order. I mean, we were going to bring a task order that specifically only related to the park at first, so no. But I mean, if you don't want the roadway and the park can be expanded, that'd be useful information, I think, for DAG to get started on a wider swath.
Oh, I got you. Is there a cost associated, an extra cost associated with them including the road at this point, or is it just part of the design package?
I mean, I'd probably have to ask Ryan to help me out on that. I assume designing a road it's less expensive than designing a park. Is that correct, Ryan? I remember you had told me one way or the other earlier, but I don't remember which way.
If the linear park goes in only, it's not going to affect the cost. The majority of the cost is going to be with whatever goes in first. And if a road never goes in, it never goes in. But the majority of the cost is associated with whatever gets built first.
Okay, so then this is my question. Based off what you're telling me, is there a reason why? Because I'm assuming if we just do the park right now, and that's the RFQ, just to do the park, then later, at some point, we find some reason we need a road, then it's going to cost more to do that study all over again and the research to implement that road. And if there's no cost benefit or no cost variance, I can understand us possibly moving forward with the road in place, but just not including it and leaving it out, because all those costs are already incorporated now. If in future use, we decide, oh my God, wait a second, now we see why we need a road here. You know, I mean, I don't think we need a road in the park, but if we're already moving forward and there's no cost incurred and it doesn't affect the timeline, it doesn't hurt to have extra information that we don't need.
But I think the point of, if we do want a park, if they've got to design the road, then we're not designing a park. I think that's just where you want them to design a road.
But you can leave the road out, right?
Not with the design, yeah, because they got to design it one way or the other.
So you can't remove the road out of the park design?
Jeff?
We can remove the road design. I think what Ryan was saying is we have to, if we're going to build a park, we have to design that first. And
Right.
we were doing it with the mindset that there might be a road there someday. We plan on bringing 2 task orders to council, the first being the park design and the second, the road design. That was our intentions all along.
Right.
But there will be elements to the park design where we have to know where the road's going to lie in case we do decide to develop that or design that later on.
For future development, but there's no cost incurred, there's no timeline delay. But if in future, if we eliminate that now, in the future we say, okay, now we want to consider a road for some reason that we're not aware of right now, then there will be extra costs incurred and it will create a bigger timeline, correct?
I believe that's probably accurate, yes.
Okay. So there's really, in my mind, there's a benefit to go ahead and get the complete package and just pick the portions we want and just leave that option open in the future. I realize we don't want a road there. I don't want a road there, but if it's already there, it doesn't cost us anything, it doesn't change anything. I don't know why we just don't move forward with having the information before us. So if we ever need it in the future for some ridiculous reason we have it.
Councilman King.
This is right on point with what I wanted to say. My fear is that this is going to turn into another crosstown connector. You know, it was a big issue with the, you know, the widening and the 2-lane or 4-lane or the infrastructure, or the exfiltration, all that. I mean, on top of the 20 years of talking about it, you know, my fear is that we're gonna have another crosstown connector thing here. And if none of us up here want to have a road, and we all agree that having a road there is you know, tragic in my mind, just get rid of the road idea. I don't know where did the road idea come from in the first place? I don't ever remember discussing that.
Lewis, is that like 2.2-1 map?
So yes, the comp plan map 2-1 shows the road in there, and on LDC, I think it's map 8-1 shows the road in there, and those were all adopted by City Council in 2014.
That's so 10 years ago.
I think I would say that we got a pest control problem up here. I would say that I would side with everybody else, and Mr. Sandstead and everybody here is in support of not having a road, and say, let's just get rid of the road idea. I mean, I guess we can do that. You know, we are clearly in dire need of more green space. So that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
All right, Councilman Schmidt.
I hear everybody, and I'm in favor to agree a little bit of both on some of these things. What I would say though is, right now we're not signing anything right now tonight to design or not design or spend money or anything. DAG is going to come back to us with a proposed contract, proposed agreement.
They'll come back with the proposed agreement, and then we're going
Right.
to bring the first task order, so however y'all want us to prepare that task order.
And then they're going to come back. You guys, your pest problems, see? That's another one. I know, right? My hope and assumption is they're going to come back with a contract and agreement that breaks out two different things, a park design and a road design, not both, because that's what the RFQ was for. Not to create one big thing, it was to create a park design and a road design. Together, but separately. You know, so what's to say they're not gonna come to us in the 15th now with a park that we are happy with? Because I think some people up here that maybe aren't even here mentioned that there might be some benefit for a north-south or west, like one of those portions, excuse me, I can't speak. One of those portions of new roads could be beneficial. Not the whole thing and all of them, but there could be. So, you know, I'd rather just see if they're going to bring us what we asked them to bring us. It should be a park and it should be a road. And then that night, if it looks like a trick and pony show like we see a lot of times, and there's a big old road with a little bitty sliver of a walkway next to it, I'll vote no for that sucker quick. But I'd rather wait until 2 weeks to look at that, in my opinion. I know we don't have to, but I'd rather wait.
All right, Councilwoman Aber.
Thanks, Mayor. I agree, but I also hear that if we're asking them to design it with a road, we're giving up more park space. So if we wait and see what they bring us, that it doesn't even look like it's mostly park anyway, we only really want the park, then I would say we would probably vote down having the road added in there. Because if we don't put a road in there, we get more park, more walkway, more green space. Isn't that right, Jeff?
I'm going to defer to Ryan on that.
Okay, Ryan.
What a man.
No road, more green space would be
So
fine,
we
right?
got to remember that about 2,000 linear feet of this is within the FPL easement. So FPL is going to have a lot of restrictions on what's allowed to be in that easement, and I doubt that they're going to allow a lot of different park features inside their easement, because they got to be able to get in and out and service the two lines that are in that easement right now, and they're already have plans to put a third transmission line through there. So they're going to need access. So even if a linear park goes through there, whatever fill needs to be brought in to bring that linear park ADA compliant has to be the same level all the way across. So you can't just like carve out just the linear park part of that easement. The whole thing has to be filled to a level so that emergency access vehicles can get back there to service anybody in the park and FPL can get in and out of there.
So we can just wait and see what they bring us and be done with it at that point.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of coordination with FPL through this whole project, no matter which way the project goes.
Right, Councilman Destin. Bring it on home.
Thank you, sir. We can't use linear park grant to design a road, period. When you confuse these two matters, you're putting the grant at risk. Number two, Florida Power and Light does not want a road down that 2,000-foot easement. It is even more disruptive to their transmission lines than a nature trail or linear park. They smile and say, we're going to work with you on it, but they don't want that. And I would be surprised if they ever actually give permission. So on that note, I'm going to make a motion that we direct city manager to have DAG just pursue the first part of the design, that is for a linear park, and to not go forward with any road designs or tangle them into this issue at all.
I second that.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, calling the vote. Ayes have it, so moved.
No road.
All right, all right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to go on to item 4F, which is just a real brief pickleball update. The agreement between the city, Mattie Kelly Arts Foundation Aquatics, and the Aquatics Center was delivered about 10 days ago. We have not yet received anything back from Mattie Kelly Arts Foundation. We did receive a version back from the Aquatic Center after we published this agenda, so we're expecting to bring back an agreement between all three parties at the next council meeting for your consideration at that time, if you want to move forward with the 400,000, a portion of the 400,000 or none of the 400,000. That's up to you guys at that point.
All right, up first, Tori Guile. Councilmember Guile.
Thank you, sir. I've got a question. I remember there was a conversation at one point where we were talking about us housing our own pickleball court, us owning it, not doing the co-op. Is that information going to be provided at the same time, simultaneously, when we see the other information? Are we going to have a comparison?
We can absolutely bring that information at the same time.
That would be wonderful. Thank you, sir.
Councilman Schmidt.
Well, I appreciate it, Mr. Guile. My same train of thoughts was that same idea, and I've been asking staff about this for, I think, at least 6 months. So I'm going to take it one step further, and I'm going to make a motion to direct the city manager to work with staff to bring back at the next meeting a cost analysis to purchase land and build pickleball courts on those properties, as well as a cost-benefit analysis between the city-owned versus donating money and having somebody else do it.
All right, I have a motion.
I'll second under one little slight variation that the cost analysis goes out 10 years so that we can see future cost benefit.
Right, yeah. I
And
want
I'll
to see
second.
cost of buying it and doing it, building it, and I also want to see the benefit of, for the next, over the next 10 years. It's fine
And I'll
with me.
second.
Okay.
All right, Councilman Destin.
My only comment is I don't oppose having that cost estimate at all. I'm not sure the next meeting is going to give them time to
Well,
effectively do it, in addition to the fact that we won't be making a decision on the pickleball presentation from the Aquatic Center by the next meeting, so.
When is it going to come back to us from Mattie Kelly?
No,
I
planning
thought
on
our
it being on the
next meeting.
17th.
I think that we could bring back the agreement between the three parties at the next agreement. I'm have to defer, and I see Lance talking to Lewis right now.
They mentioned in the next meeting.
Yeah, well, you can bring it back when we ask you to bring it back, can't you? In other words, I want to give the staff
Delay.
time to do a real cost analysis.
I agree.
And I think 2 weeks is just too short for us.
So do you want June? Or?
So,
There you go.
Yeah, if you
so
could push
I'll
to June.
amend it to say, bring it back before or at the same meeting as the agreement when we get brought the Matty Kelly thing.
And I would tell staff not to put off bringing that back to us until the meeting that we have listened to this one also.
Right.
Yeah, and we've had negotiations and conversations with other like economists in the area about the pickleball, so we kind of have all the players like in queued up. So, 2 weeks would be pushing it a little bit, but we do have and know all the players.
My intention is, and I'm supportive of pickleball. I want to see pickleball. My intentions are, I don't want to be presented with one option to donate $400,000 with an interlocal agreement to let somebody build pickleball and say, well, we've been trying to get in touch with FPL for a year, and we're not sure if we're going to be able to do it over there. I would like to have some definitive answers provided by staff and legal.
If your motion will be to bring it back at the first meeting in June,
If that's what they're okay
staff,
with,
you can do that?
it's fine with me.
Okay.
All right, got a motion and a second? Calling the vote? Ayes have it. First meeting in June. 2 options.
Yeah, a few announcements. The 24th Annual Founder's Day celebration will be held this Saturday on May the 6th from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. at the Destin Community Center. And the utility wraps have been scheduled, and one in particular in honor of Colton Ward will be put in place on May the 10th. Community Development and our Public Information Office have met with the Ward family to schedule something meaningful for the unveiling that also encourages a message of both safety, but also blood and organ donation. This month, as you know, is National Building Safety Month, and we have not only the proclamation, but several posts and publications that we're distributing about that event. Our library is putting on a blackout poetry craft night on Friday, May the 12th at 6 p.m., and pre-registration is required for this event. Today is the official start of the sea turtle nesting season, and we, the city, are distributing our specialized red flashlights again. I think they're available at City Hall, and then also, is that just at City Hall now?
Right now, I just have them at City Hall, but we also are working with different schools around to distribute them there.
Very good. So if you couldn't hear that, you can come to City Hall if you want to try to get that while supplies last. And we are working with our school systems to distribute to our local students. And we're working on an update of our current hurricane guide, and hopefully we won't need to use it, but we are updating it. And we will have that available to the public shortly. There will be a May the 4th City Council workshop in this room on the harbor capacity study. So please remember 5:30 p.m. in this room for the...
This Thursday?
This Thursday, yep, for the council workshop. The city and its contractor, H&T, have started the work out on Scenic 98, so there will be milling and resurfacing taking place. So if you get phone calls, just please ask them to bear with us. We're making it better for them in the long run, and this is the slowest part of the season that we have. So we'll have it done before Memorial Day. And finally, our HR has been hosting training sessions, trying to help staff become more involved in our retirement program. And we're happy to say that so far we've found to be a 38% increase in the participation amongst our staff. So I'm happy they're taking advantage of that on behalf of the city. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And then, so Councilwoman Hebert wants to...
Thanks, Mayor. Lance, you were talking about this, and this is, it's like paper copy of what is being created. Ryan, do you have any of this, anything larger that you can use to show so on YouTube people can understand exactly what has been put together for that special utility box at the corner of Main and Kelly?
I have a PDF of that.
Can you come up here and put it up there? Because this is too small for somebody to see on TV if they're watching online. But it basically is a tribute to Colton in his memory, as well as speaking to driving safe, et cetera. So if you've got, do you have the PDF?
Yeah, Councilwoman, may we please wait until the unveiling for that? We were working with the
Oh,
Ward
absolutely.
family for that.
I
Yeah.
thought they had already approved
Yeah,
it. I wanted
they
to
have
make sure.
approved it, but we have a special kind of ceremonial piece that we're
Perfect.
working on.
Well, I'm just really glad that we've been able to help them have something special done in his honor. So, thank you. And thanks, Lance, for presenting that.
All right, thank you, Lance. All right, to the main show. I appreciate everyone keeping up with us here. So we'll get into the public hearing. So at this time, Kyle, take it away.
First, we have item 5A. This is the second reading of ordinance number 2304CC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, providing for amendments to the Code of Ordinances to establish a code compliance lien reduction application process and criteria for reduction of code compliance liens, amending Chapter 14, Offenses and Miscellaneous Provisions, creating Section 14-86, Application to City Council for reduction of existing code compliance lien, creating Section 14-87, required criteria for reduction of existing code compliance lien, providing for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the Code of Ordinances, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date, and this is a public hearing.
That is impressive. Seeing that it's a public hearing, at this time, if anyone has any public comments on the lien reductions, this is your time to do so. Seeing none, I will close the public comments and I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I move to adopt ordinance 23-04-GC on second reading.
Second.
Motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, calling the vote. Oh, great. Ayes have it, so moved. Back to you.
All right, next we have item 5B. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. We have MRD Associates, Inc. on behalf of Mike Abity of ABC Amusements submitting an application for construction of a plus-minus 3,346 square foot, 200-foot long, 16-slip wooden dock to the east of the existing 20-slip Gilligan's docking facility at 530 Harbor Boulevard. At this time, if I could get any member of the applicant's team, any member of staff who plans on testifying, any member of the public who plans on testifying, please stand and raise your right hand. I'll swear you in. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth? All right, thanks, guys. And like we always do for a quasi-judicial hearing, starting with Kevin, see if there's been any ex parte communication.
No, there is not.
None.
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 All right, and Ms. Kopp, we'll go down to you first.
Okay, we're just going to make one correction to the staff report in the very first paragraph where it refers to the dock as 3,346 square feet. It's 3,436, so the 4 gets changed to a 3. Other than that, we just want to submit the staff report and its attachments into the record as City's Composite Exhibit A and then turn it over to the applicant.
And Mr. Abity, any objection to that getting entered into the record, the staff report, and all exhibits, I take it? Okay, thank you. And you're free to go ahead and present.
All right, so still name and address, hit the button, and then have that red light turn on. Turn that button on, hit the button.
Sorry.
There you go. Name and address first, please.
Yes, Mike Dombrowski, MRD Associates, 543 Harbor Boulevard, Destin. This is the second time being in front of the council. The last time that we had gotten approval through the Board of Adjustments to extend the dock further than the 200-foot limit. We redesigned the project to meet that original design or the original requirement of the LDR that talks about having a dock that would extend no further than 200 feet from the shoreline. And so we've redesigned that to accommodate that. Just a few things about the design and some clarification is how you define that 200-foot offset. And it's not the actual dock, it's the 200-foot shoreline extension that's offset. Now, this is a little bit more of a unique situation that you have a concavity of the shoreline, so it actually juts in versus a typical straight shoreline, which you would end off adjusting it 200-foot seaward. Is that what we do is that you just take, and this is done through AutoCAD, which is an engineering program, it's a drawing program, and is that you take that shoreline and you just offset it 200 foot. We don't interpolate, we don't interpret, we don't round it off. We just take whatever comes out of that offset. And this design does do that. The second thing is that did come up during the Harbor Board meeting is that the dock itself should extend no more than 200 feet from the mean high water line. And I need to explain that a little bit more is that there's two different things. There's the 200-foot offset, which has always been applied in these type of situations. I was on the Harbor Board for about 8 years, and that's the distance that you always go by. It's not the length of the dock itself. And we've looked at a number of docks, and we do have figures if you'd like to see it. We looked at like Galati, for instance. Galati extended in terms of going from the mean high water line out, it actually extends 222 feet, but it's still within that 200-foot offset from the shoreline. More recently was Ora Marine. That also had a 200-foot offset from the shoreline, which it's within, meaning from where you access it to basically where you get to the end and you fall off the end, it's where that offset is from the shoreline. So I just wanted to make those 2 points clear. So we do meet the rest of the criteria in terms of the distance. Since the last meeting that we had, we went from 17 boat slips down to 16 boat slips, and also that we reduced the size of the boats that we're asking for just solely because of now the limitation that we do have. Again, before we were able to go out, or at least we were approved by the Board of Adjustment to go out 262 feet. We are now at that 200 foot. So I'm certainly available for any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So at this time, I will do public comments at this time based off the applicant. So if anyone's here to speak on this specific item, this is your time to do so.
Good evening, I'm Randy Taylor. I live at 508 Harbor Boulevard. I have a question about the submission of plan, and before I talk about, I want to, if I could pass out some copies of what I'm talking about.
Can you give a copy to Mr. Abady and to Ms. Kopp before you pass them out?
All right.
Approach the bench. I'll share with Johnny.
Okay, what you have in your hand is the previous submission for dock and the current submission. There appears to be a difference in the 200-foot offset line drawn in the original submission and the current one. There needs to be some clarity of why the 200-foot offset lines are different from the drawing, in the two drawings. As you can see, the one which was before and the one after, and one current. I think council needs to take a hard look at this. It appears to be different on both sets of drawings. The contour lines are clearly different. I think before you vote on this, I think you need to assure yourselves of the accuracy of the offset lines. appears to be drawn to accommodate the dock. And I'd like to know who sets up the criteria of where the offset line is.
Can you point out the offset line you're talking about, Mr. Taylor?
Yes. I'm referring to the offset line.
If you could stay at the mic the best you can and kind of describe it.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Just point at it from up there.
The offset line is this line, 200-foot offset line right here. You see, this is the previous, and this is the current. You see the line as it comes down here and then goes straight up. It changes. You can see right here where previously the line goes right here, comes right around. You can see right there as it goes there and then goes, and then right here as it jets up. Right here, it's kind of hard to do all this.
Yeah.
Okay, right here. You see how this comes up? Yeah. And you see how this goes
Applicant,
through.
does the applicant need to come up and see this too? Just,
Okay.
do
Does he
you want to
see-
come up and see what?
My question is, why are these two lines different?
Sir, can you hold on just a second? I just want to see if the applicant needs to come up and see what you're pointing at. You see, you understand? Okay. I just want to make sure you have the opportunity to respond. Hang on just a second. I just want to make sure you have the opportunity to respond appropriately. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're good. We're just a quasi-judicial.
This is the design before, and this is the design now. My question is, this offset line, why are there two different lines? Why are they two? One goes straight across, one goes up. All right, why? Who just establishes this offset line? Is it just the engineer, or is it permanent? Where does it come from? All right, also, if you look at the high mean water line down here, the red line on both, they're different, okay? You got two different lines going on in two different ways. They're completely, and, all right, this one goes straight across right here, and this one jets up to accommodate this extra slip. Why is that? I'm just curious. I look at this, I've had other people look at it with me and tell me and ask me why this is, and I'm here asking you. I'm actually asking the engineer.
I'm not here to argue with you, Mr. Taylor, but it looks like these are different scales, if I'm just being honest. I see what you're saying about this line, but these are not the same.
The size of the boats are different if you look in one drawing, because he's gone down in size because he doesn't have the large yachts at the end.
Right.
So it's the same drawing, but it's just the boats are smaller. Therefore, he's changed where the head count or the boat count is in each of these.
I just see this as, why is it, this dock right here is 200 feet, all right? You go across here, it should be the same, 200 feet out. Why do we have this extra slip here that goes out, and we have the line goes different to accommodate that? Why?
I think because the shore is further out than the other one. And he already answered, I think he mentioned that reason, because of the line, high mean water line, because the shore moves. So the dock you're referring to is further north than the new dock. That's what it looks like to me.
The line does curve, yes it does, I agree
So the
with you.
shore is further south on the new dock.
Right.
So that means it's gonna go further out from that point.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, why wouldn't this line here be the same as here? It'd go down, it just seems like this one goes up higher, is what I'm looking at. Correct me if I'm wrong, I would like from the architect, Mr. Dombrowski.
Just for the record, once you're done explaining the question, we will have the applicant come up and respond.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Okay,
so much.
well, that's my question, is why are these two lines different? And it seems to accommodate what we have here.
And then special request, can you hit the button on there to turn that guy off? Yeah. Okay, so is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak on this dock? Seeing none, I will close the public comments and turn it over to the applicant.
again, Mike Dombrowski. The lines are exactly the same. And I could certainly point them out to each one of you if you like.
You can see what he's saying, though, about the difference. I mean,
Can you grab that, Mike?
Yeah, because the dip is different in each drawing.
and I could be wrong about the scale, I just,
Should I start at one end versus the other?
However, council, you would like to
make a
proceed.
difference to me.
If you take a look at, one of the things that you use as reference is the green line, which is the 200-foot offset, but just compare it to the contours itself. So you have, in the background, you have the grayish light, and you have each one of the water depths. So if you compare the two, they're exactly the same.
You don't have to show me much more, but I'll just, maybe this is one of the questions he's asking, because and I'm not an engineer, but maybe a simple question as, that line looks like a sharp line, and that one looks like a nice curved line. So I'm assuming that might be one of the things that he's referring to, where it's like a 45-degree angle versus a nice slope. I'm not, I mean, to me, it looks like there's more room on the new one, or less room than the old room, because if you took that sharp angle, you could fit more boats in there, in my opinion. So, that might be one of the things that we're referring to. The little blue line, and like,
if you
I don't
look,
know, but-
now granted, the end of it, but in terms of where the proposed dock is that it's the same. We don't gain anything from it. Matter of fact, basically, it's the same line because we use the same drawings. So, we could certainly keep on.
Okay, this right here, like my fellow council member Schmidt was talking about, this sharp V here goes up, and then it sort of like gently goes this way. However, in your new drawing with the smaller amounts of boats, it looks like you would have more room for another boat there with the way this was drawn. And this right here, it's like, it's perception, basically, looks like it's more of a point here. But realistically, if you look at the parallels, there isn't anything extra. In fact, you probably could add another boat in the new drawing based on that curve.
Yes, ma'am. And actually, what we're leaving those open for is for the water taxi.
Gotcha.
It's for public access.
I have no problem with it.
Okay.
So what you're eliminating here is these, essentially, because these are from here to here and here to here, and both drawings are the same distance.
Yes. Virtually, yes. I mean, what we ended off doing is that we took away the big boat slips at the southern end in order to meet that. And one of the other things is that the owner wanted to try to maintain as many boat slips as possible. So he looked at what he has in terms of reservations for the different boat slips and the size. So we needed to reduce them. We had 40s and 45s. Now we're going, 30. The east side is 30s and 32s, I think. But we're maintaining the 45s on the west side.
This is a question that I had, and I was going to ask later, but how, assuming this boat is here, how are these guys going to get out and in?
They need to move that because that is within our riparian lines. So basically, it's like somebody parking their car on your property. Riparian lines is no different than boundary lines.
So Harbor Docks is going to be required to move. They're going to lose this slip.
Yes, and actually, it's not even there now.
Yeah, it is. I ate lunch there today, and that boat is absolutely right
well.
there.
It's not a slip though, Johnny. It's on the side of the.
It's on the
It's on the side of a dock. Let's be honest.
I'm not.
It's not a slip.
I'm not here to argue who's renting what. I'm
Regardless,
just
it's
saying,
once we
if that is a slip, that boat's going to have to go to get these guys in here.
But regardless, it's within our riparian lines what they're going to need to remove.
Okay. Yeah, I see that.
All right. Everyone else cleared up? Well, all right, so first up is going to be Councilwoman Aber.
I move City Council approve the modifications made at 530 Harbor Boulevard, subject to the applicant meeting all applicable federal, state, and city permitting requirements.
All right, I have a motion on the table.
Second.
The second, I'll continue with the discussion. Councilman King, anything further?
Nothing further, thanks.
Councilman Guile?
This is just a note to help possibly you guys look at what's going on here. And I do see what the gentleman that provided the drawings is referring to. They're slightly rounded, sharper edges on one. I don't have my engineering ruler with me, but if you take a piece of paper and you mark off the fixed structure, because those do not move, those are stationary, and you mark a point on a piece of paper from that offshore line to the fixed structures, they're within that same boundary line. So I do see his concern that there are variations, but at the key points, everywhere that I measured, at the end of the dock, at the edge of the riparian rights line, they do fall within that fixed structure. So ideally, I believe the two are the same. It's just somebody used a rounding agent or something when they were drawing one versus the other. But at the critical points, they do fall within that line on both drawings.
All right. Councilman Schmidt?
I'll just add that last time you were here, you had a variance already, and you asked for our approval. You know, we didn't give it to you based upon somebody's reason. You come back to meet the code. Here you are. Mr. Taylor, I hear your concerns, but I even asked you at the last meeting if they came back at a 200-foot dock, would y'all be okay with it? And y'all even said you would. You know, and so it's going to make it more congested. You know, I get that, but, you know, you're allowed to do what you're doing here, and you're meeting the codes, which is all we ask of people nowadays. So who am I to deny something that's by the book here, you know, so.
Councilman Destin?
Yeah, that's basically the observation I was going to make. I see no criteria by which I would deny this application. Are we all happy to see more and more slips in the harbor? The answer is no, of course. I would like to stop it right after I built mine, but that doesn't hardly pass the sniff test or the fair test, so I would have to support this application.
All right, so with that, I see no further discussion.
For the record, I just need to make sure that I am approving this. The modifications I was referring to was at the previous meeting when you were here with the extension. I'm recommending approval of the 200-foot dock. The recommended motion for the marine construction project located at 530 Harbor Boulevard, just so that's on the record, okay?
All right.
Correct,
Councilman
with the
King?
most recent submittal.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. You've got, this is just a quick thing. We've got 16 slips there's 16 slips here that are going to be rented commercially, correct? Is this space right here and this space right here going to be rented?
You're looking at the two outside or the southernmost sides of the finger piers. No, those will not be rented. There's that are not slips, but they will be available for again the water taxi to drop off and retrieve.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so no further discussion. I will call the vote. Ayes have it, so moved.
Thank you.
All right, that ends our public hearings, and we are off to the races on our final part, and I am very excited to see Councilman Sweetser able to take the reign back. I appreciate you being here and holding in there with us.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Button.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back. It was a bit of an extended recovery than I expected, but I'm stronger and glad to be here. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Guile.
I just have two quick things that I want to mention for the record. One, I've been participating in quite a few committee things, quite a few community functions. And one thing that has become extremely apparent to me is that our mayor is doing an amazing job of supporting our community and being at all these functions. If I'm not there, people are always telling me, well, the mayor was there, why aren't you there? But I try to tell them I'm not 12 years old. I don't have that kind of energy anymore. No, but I think he is doing an absolute amazing job, and I'm very proud of him. One thing I do want to bring up, and it separate than this, obviously, but something that occurred March 20th that is kind of falling in line with some things that we brought up here tonight. And this falls back into this parking situation that we ran into. And I've had this discussion during my agenda briefing. On March 20th, we made a motion to direct staff to come up with some parking options for employees in the harbor, bring it before the Public Works Safety Committee for their review and recommendation to this council, and it passed 5-0. Unfortunately, what was brought before us on the agenda for the April, I think it was the 17th agenda, if I'm not mistaken, the word employee was removed from that. And I don't know how it was removed. I don't know where it was removed, but it was removed. Our motion was specifically for employee parking, for non-resident employee parking. That's the motion that was approved, 5-0. But when it was presented on that agenda, employee was removed from that. I don't know where. And I feel that there should have been, from the staff, some explanation or asking us to revote or make a new motion or amend our motion. I don't feel that the staff should be making decisions upon themselves or taking these decisions upon themselves to remove portions of our motions. Now, I've reviewed most of the videos because I was trying to find out if that motion was amended during a later meeting, and I can't see anywhere where that motion was amended, but I just want to say that I'm a little bit irritated that the original motion was amended and we did not come back to council for our input before we changed it on the agenda item.
You looking for a response or?
I'm not looking for a response. It's more of a,
Observation?
well, not necessarily an observation, but almost a warning, in my opinion. I'm somewhat irritated by it, and I don't feel that people should overstep certain boundaries. I don't know where it happened. I don't know how it happened. I'm not here to point fingers, but I think there's a protocol that should have happened that was bypassed.
Noted. Councilman Destin. Go.
Can I speak to that? Because I think Lance Webb was here when we were working on trying to figure it out. And I could be probably part of the problem because when we looked at doing something for employees, we then looked at how would we get the employees to get these parking passes without having the employer pay the employee. And in the big scheme of things, if we just made it a non-resident annual fee and then encouraged the employers to pay for those employees that stayed on for 3 months, it would encourage those employees to be more loyal because they didn't have to pay for that parking all summer because their employers would, because they were going to get reimbursed. So that may have been how it got shifted inadvertently to where it was no longer an employee parking. It was more of, let's make it more affordable for non-residents that are employees, but that the employers didn't have to come in and buy 25 employee parking stickers, et cetera.
Okay, so is that the protocol? I mean, I can go sit down with city staff regardless of the motion up here with council and tell them I don't want what council proposed or agreed upon. I want you to alter it this way, and staff's going to adjust it that way without returning back to council for vote. I mean, I realize what you're saying, You approached them with a different alternative, but I feel it was staff's responsibility to come back to this council with your adjustment and say, we did find some issues with the employee parking. These are the roadblocks we have. Would you like us to continue, or would you like to amend that original motion? It should have, in my opinion, come back to this council.
I think I just want to give you my perspective is, these things are put on the agenda with a recommended motion. We have the ability to make motions however we see fit. I think what Ms. Hebert is saying is that there may have been a different perspective on that topic, because I recall having a good long conversation about this whole thing, and I felt like we put our heads together on what we saw fit. But I could be wrong. That should be my perspective.
I know what you're saying, but when you look at the action items, the motion that we approved was employee, regardless of what we discussed here, because we have that freedom to sit up here and discuss, and we take that liberty quite often. But the motion that was approved was one thing, and what was actually presented on the agenda was something completely, well, not completely different, but it was altered. So I understand what you're saying, the discussion, but I think there has to be a protocol, there has to be a system in place, and somehow that failed. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have moved it to non-resident, but it should have been presented back to us as a council to vote on that before it was just altered, before it hit the next agenda item, in my opinion. And if I'm wrong, please show me where that's not the procedure or that I'm mistaken.
Well, that's why we as a council, we can't call each other. We have to do it up here on the dais. That was brought when sitting down for the next agenda meeting, talking about how's the best way to make sure we can take care of the non-residential employees without the employers having to come in and buy it all. When we voted on it at that meeting to do it that way, that would have been the time you say, wait a minute, this is not what we asked you to bring back to us. So maybe it may have gotten lost accidentally because I thought it was a good idea. I didn't think it was critical that the word employee was part of it. And I think throughout the agenda briefings, I know that Webb was championing it with each of us to make sure, is this a better way? We don't want employers to have to come buy 50 stickers or 20 stickers for their employees. And it was like, okay, let's just make it a roundup fee to make it easy.
Okay, and I did bring it up during that next council meeting, and I was corrected by Councilman Schmidt and yourself saying, no, it says this. So at that time, I needed to find out what the action item was. It wasn't in front of me. So I had to go back, research. I wasn't going to say something unless I was 100% correct, and I wasn't sure if my original motion was amended at some point. So that's the other portion I had to research. So regardless, we voted on one thing. It was presented a different way. And I think we need to be consistent. I apologize. I'll stop interjecting, but.
If I may, Mayor, the solution to this may be quite simple. We'll direct the city clerk to include the motion made when there's agenda item that we will vote on it. That way we can all see the motion made and the reflecting agenda item and see if they're the same.
I think that's brilliant.
Great idea.
How about a motion to that effect then? And since the city clerk is one of the few employees we can direct to do things, I'll make that motion directed to the city clerk.
And I'll second it.
All right.
All right.
Calling the vote.
Call the vote. You were just so busy, right?
All right, ayes have it. Ray's got another job. All right, Councilmember Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. I did have some discussions with a representative from Florida Power and Light about our undergrounding. I had a number of questions for them. Having sat in as a council liaison on some of the discussions, I understand that we have to have easements in place to go forward with the undergrounding along 98. So we need to know how many easements we have that are signed as of now or next meeting, and what the deadline is for getting those easements signed. Perhaps Kyle knows more of the answer than I do, but in any event, I would request that the city manager give us a monthly report on the progress we're making on those easements. I also remember that our attorney, Chef, said we needed to pass an ordinance that required the other vendors that are on those poles out there, such as the cable people and TV people, telephone people, whoever are on them, we need an ordinance that mandates that they have to move underground with Gulf Power, otherwise we'll still have poles. So if the city manager can do that, and I'll make a motion to the effect that they bring back a monthly report that's a little more detailed on the progress we're making, because I remember on Main Street, we were going to underground utilities, and 3 or 4 owners said no. They wouldn't give us the easement. Those power poles are still above ground. And I specifically asked the people at Florida Power and Light, if we do not have the easements, can we underground the utilities? And they said no. So we need to get on top of that right now. As a property owner, and I will state as the other property owners I know along the corridor, no one's approached me about an easement at all. So if we're going to start in the fall and there are no easements, that's a pipe dream. We need to get the answer to that.
I'll second that.
I can bring that back, no problem. And just for the council's information, at the last undergrounding meeting that we had last week, they indicated that 66% of the properties had given their verbal.
In writing.
I'm sorry.
In writing? Okay, well, we're 40% short so far. Let's find out what's happened with those. Thank you. One other question I was going to ask, and I. Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
You got a second, so I'll call.
Trying to get ahead of myself.
Just to clarify, because there's actually, UCOF, our contractor, keeps a running Excel list of tracking the easements. I mean, if council wants that Excel list, I don't see why we couldn't provide that.
That's a fairly long document.
It is. I've got it pulled up right now, the version from
Yeah, I'd like to read
November.
the digest condensed version.
Okay.
I'm showing my age, I suppose, but
Well, it tells you exactly what it means. I mean, you might want both. Maybe you want both.
I'm sure the city manager can condense it down
Yeah.
for us and tell us the relevant things. But if we'll vote on that.
All right, calling the vote.
I got a question though, before you move on, if that's all right. Who's doing that work, the easements? Who's
UCOF, the contractor,
UCOF.
is primarily, I mean, at times they've involved me and Chef and city staff in contacting certain
So are
property
you
owners
feeling
and
that,
working with-
and based on your meetings, are you feeling that we need to have our people prod them a little bit because there's a problem, there's a delay, like?
I just feel that we need to have an update report going to the whole council.
Okay.
I'm still Bulldog, and obviously I called them and asked these questions. But we need all the council to be aware of how we're progressing.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep.
All right,
And
and
the other issue I have is on our charging station that we had proposed, and they had proposed they were going to put in the parking lot across the city parking lot. I guess we've run into some glitches on that. I asked them what.
They told us that they did not wish to proceed at this time. Well, they sent us an email saying they did not wish to proceed, and then Bernard sent an email about 5 minutes later saying, hold on, we'll get back with you. So-
Yeah, and I got that, we'll get back to you, but I did explore the why we don't want to proceed. They feel that they don't want to put it into a parking lot that is controlled by a high parking fee, because they don't think people will get in there. And I pointed out to them that, we'll make it quite clear in any manner we have to that we're not going to charge people while they're charging their cars, I hope, would be our feelings, but we don't want to let those charging stations slip away from us, because that's quite a lot of money.
I'll say we got that same explanation. I don't know that that's the true reason, because it was communicated to them that council might be willing to negotiate that point.
Yes, and they said they're still willing to work with us to figure out a solution, but we need to stay after them or we won't work out a solution.
so that's with Florida Power and Lights. There's several other agencies that do this. Have we considered going after an RFP of other proposals?
If council wants to put out one, I'm sure we could. I mean, we heard from Bernard, hold on. We were holding on.
And I don't know who else will do it for free. We can put an RFQ out asking people to do it for free, probably won't get a lot of responses.
I mean, maybe. I know for the parking As far as for the parking lot meters, as far as if we wanted to change from our current to a different company, the person I was talking to said the infrastructure is free if we're going to go with them for a different parking metering. They install the parking, and it's like a 3 to 6 year contract depending on our.
Yeah.
So there doesn't hurt to ask, but I don't know how long Bernard takes to get back with answers. So.
Well, don't worry, I'll call him every week.
Oh, there you go. All right, better you than me.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, Councilwoman Aber.
Thanks, Mayor. And I kind of want to say in exactly like Councilman Gile said, every event that I go to, and I try and go to a lot of chamber events and a lot of, charity events, the mayor's there. I mean, I usually walk in and he's like, yeah, wow, you're here too. So you're doing a great job representing the city. And, and somebody asked me, does he have a job? I said, yes, he works full time. I don't know how he can go to everything. So well done representing the city and being at all the
Thank you.
events that you're at. So thank you. The one item I have under my name, I know that, I saw our illustrious staff on Main Street. Ryan was walking with one of the road meters to see the distance from point A to point B. So, Mr. Burgess, are you sitting there with some update about the speed tables for Main Street?
Sure, I can give you a brief update. As you mentioned today, we had representatives from the engineering division and public works out there kind of identifying where some good candidate locations would be for the speed humps for that north section of Main Street. And what we identified was a section kind of, it's north of Bayou Drive, but south of Planet. That's kind of the straightaway for Main Street, where you would probably expect people to kind of be a little aggressive with the gas pedal. And so we decided on 2 spots. For a speed hump to be effective, they need to be located, and you need to have them in pairs, and typically located between 150 to 500 feet apart. And the 2 locations we identified are kind of in between. They're about 380 feet apart. We have received a quote from our asphalt contractor H&T for that. The quote, according to the contract prices, is $12,000. And typically, we would pay for those out of our TRSAF funds, that traffic safety fund. But in FY23, there's only $2,300 remaining in that account. So we're kind of at that point right now.
So is that something we can use in like the unassigned general fund?
Is there a fund of some sort, Crystal, that could help with those speed tables? So we could move this along, since we have found that to be definitely something, especially since the summer's coming?
Yes, so we have council contingency.
What does that mean? What do you need me to make a motion?
That's correct.
Aren't we using that for the RFQ for the Main Street? Or is that in addition to? No?
I think you replenished that.
We replenished it?
Yeah, I think,
Okay.
right, Crystal? Yeah.
That's correct. It went up to, we replenished it. We brought the balance back up to $50,000 by budget amendment at a previous meeting, and we have spent approximately $5,000 so far, and that was for the wrap on the utility boxes.
So can I make a motion?
Teresa, can I interrupt you real quick? Ms. Aber, Councilwoman Aber. Where's the second one? 380 feet away? You might have said it, I apologize.
Right, if you look at the distance between Bayou and Planet, that stretch of road, one is about 40% of the way between there going north, and the other is about 80% of the way. So it's away from the Planet intersection, and it's away from the Bayou intersection.
South of Planet, north of Bayou, both of them would be between that.
Exactly, that's that long straightaway.
Right.
So-
Before you talk about contingency, I mean, aren't there a handful of budgeted items that have not even been touched yet? And we have a few more months left in the budget
Michael has pretty
cycle?
much expended his roadway, road resurfacing and restriping. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I do have a road resurfacing and restriping fund, but I'll be bringing you some projects, probably one definitely at the next council meeting and one probably at the next council meeting that will expend most of that. To be determined, because we have to get quotes. I have a quote for one, I just need to get the quote for the other. I don't know how much pardon the phrase, but I don't know how much chicken I have left on the bone.
Are we still resurfacing the community center parking lot and a lot of these other parking lots that we were in the budget?
We have,
I'm sorry, Ms. April.
no, you're fine, you're fine. I'm sorry, I'm apologizing too. We've got the Zerby Cybert parking resurfacing. That is a project that was in the FY23 budget. Our illustrious city engineers finalizing the plans for those, so I can give them to H&T for a quote. We have other parking improvement monies, but they're kind of, I think, Crystal, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're kind of earmarked for parking.
I just want to be
And not
cautious
traffic
about using
safety.
council contingency. Whenever I got a list of budget the other day, and there's a whole bunch of projects in this fiscal year that have not even really been, a dollar hasn't even been spent. So before we just start taking council contingency, I just want to make sure we're looking appropriately across the budget.
Are you comfortable now with what he just reported on where? those have been
Personally, no,
approved?
I think there's money elsewhere that could be pulled out besides the council contingency, personally. So, but I mean, if
Where-
that's what the motion you want to make, I mean,
Do you have another place that you know of?
Crystal, is it custom to take from the unassigned fund balance?
No, you'd have to do a budget amendment to do that, and I'd bring that back for, in the form of a, budget amendment at the next meeting.
I don't want to say how much is in there on the record, but.
how much
I
are we
would-
short? How much are we short, you said? From the
9,500.
$9,500.
I'd like to make a motion to use council contingency 9,500 to do the speed tables on Main Street, please.
All right, I got a motion with a please.
Needs?
Can
All
you
right.
look in an alternative area, Crystal, if needed?
I've been looking, and I'm not finding.
That's where you're
just
saying?
because of all of
She's saying to take it from that?
Yeah,
Well, then I will just second the motion.
what I'm looking at, but like Michael said, there are a lot of other, even though we haven't brought task orders to council to encumber money, staff have been having discussions with contractors to get quotes to bring those task orders to you for encumbrance. So there's a lot more happening. It just hasn't shown up on your projects yet. And then there are also other funds are restricted for their purposes. So we can't, I can't use like park impact fees or these other things that are for the projects that haven't started yet. So it's not as simple as just looking at the bottom line.
We can start there, and we can always shift later, but I'm going to tell you, the parking humps, whatever we want to call them, that we put on Calhoun and Cybert have been unbelievably effective in slowing people down, so.
My neighbor's dog got hit right across the street on Saturday, so it's very important that we shut that half a mile of 90 miles an hour down.
And then I have Councilman Sweetser.
Yes, I want to jump in on this, and thank you, Teresa, for putting this on here, because it's a start. But for a few years now, I've been barking up the tree about Kelly Street. It's bad. In 2017, I was T-boned. I've been pulling in and out of that driveway since I was on a tricycle. I looked both ways. The guy went right through the stop sign, going 50 miles an hour, and T-boned me. Totaled my car. Takes my grandma sometimes 20 minutes to get across the street to check her mail. We have a school there. I know that in years past, the reason that we couldn't do anything is because it was slowing down the fire department. But I have asked, and now that we have a fire department over on Calhoun and on the other side, that's not so much of an issue now. So if I need to make a motion or what you need me to do, we've got to get a hold of Kelly Street. Right, but Kelly Street is, they go all right, they come off of Main, and I mean, they fly down. It's a school district, it's a residential neighborhood.
Councilman Sweetser, you have every right to make a motion to put speed humps. I know you just got back here. We talked about this the other night. If you want to put some speed humps on Kelly, you can make a motion where you want to kind of put them. They'll bring back some ideas, and we can do that if we want.
What I plan to do, actually, because from what I understand, we need I don't necessarily need a petition, but I would like to hear what the other owners on Kelly Street have to say. 50% to get it done.
So if you want to go that route, you can go through Public Works, and that's kind of what they would do, if you want to
Okay.
go that route. But you also have the power to do it up here.
As a council member, I said I'd
Yeah.
like to have them installed.
Okay. Well, then I would like to make a motion.
Hold on, we got a motion on the table, so let's get through
Oh,
this one.
sorry.
And then the floor is yours. King, do you have anything else you want to?
Yes. Can you repeat the motion, Ray?
I was going to clarify as to whether Councilmember Abert is accepting Mr. No, okay. So the motion then is to use the council contingency fund to finance the speed table on Main Street.
Thank you, sir.
Two
You
of
know,
them?
I've had people reach out to me since the last meeting about this. You know, we have a process for most other things. You know, I would like to see us implement I brought this up 2 years ago about some side streets where everyone was flying. And we had a traffic study done, and it was one person that went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth all day, cutting through from Calhoun to Cybert, just all day. I don't know what they were doing with their life, but it was in all these cases, in most of these cases, it's one person. Don, our previous engineer, pointed that out to me, and he pointed out some other avenues for slowing people down. I would like to see, we're going to put speed bumps all over this town. I would like to see us put the process back in play with a study that warrants such a thing. I drive down Main Street every single day. You know, I'm with you. I drive down Kelly just about every day. I'm with you. But I would like to see the results from a study, and I think that there are other citizens who would like to see the same thing.
All right, Councilman Guile.
I'm just going to put in personal experience. So I'm driving the speed limit. I've got a very low riding car. I can go over that speed hump without slowing down below the speed limit, and it doesn't scrape, scratch, hurt, or bounce on that car. I mean, that car, I feel like my butt's dragging the ground every time I sit in the dang thing. So these speed tables, I don't think they're impeding speed or anything by having them in place personally, because if that car go through it without me slowing down and not scrape, I think anybody can pretty much go over it without having an issue.
All right, so with that, the current motion's on Main Street speed humps. I'll call it to a vote. More bumps on the road.
Okay, can I interject something just very quickly? I was on vacation last week, but while I was on vacation, staff was contacted by the Destin Fire Control District, and they had some concerns about their ability to promptly respond and how these speed humps may potentially affect their ability to respond. So, do you want to add anything to that?
I was told the opposite of that.
So yeah, we met with the fire marshal last week, and it wasn't about that at all. He just brought it up as a side at the end. Like, they're showing up more and more around the city, and their concern is they want to be kept in the loop, even if it's council-directed speed hump, of where they're going to go and see if they have any input on that, because they are concerned that it's starting to slow them down on getting to calls.
I mean, I don't doubt that it will, but it's also going to save a lot of lives by putting them in. More so than maybe that few seconds that it's going to take the fire department to get there. I mean, if you go back in time and look at every accident that's happened on Kelly Street, I mean, that's going to give you your answer right there.
I would like to see those numbers.
The studies.
Study, yeah.
Yes, I would like to see a study.
Well, okay, staff has already been directed, I believe, at the last council meeting for the Public Works and Safety Committee to take a look into kind of more of a holistic approach to traffic management and speed control throughout the city. We have our next scheduled meeting next Tuesday at 5:30 in this room, and that'll be on the agenda.
All righty. Did you go?
That's it, I'm done.
All right. King,
Nothing further, thank you.
all right. Open the book, sir.
I'm not sure what that means, but thank you for the microphone. If we wanted to build a parking garage, what would we need to start that process? I know it's somewhat of a vague question, but, I mean, we have property. How can we start the process to build a parking garage?
So last time, what the council did was they put out an RFQ for a public-private partnership and actually did have a response, and then just elected not to move forward. So that's how it went about last time. You
Put an
know.
RFQ for a public-private partnership, and that was just to assist with cost of it possibly?
Yeah, with the cost and management and maintenance and all that. And then essentially, I don't remember. And I mean, we could probably send you what their proposal was if you wanted to get an idea of what you might get back. That was 4 or 5 years ago, though, so. But that was just how the council went about, looking at that and then deciding that were actually not interested in pursuing that at the time.
Gotcha.
But, you know, there are other routes. That was just an example.
Sure. Well, I would like to make a motion to put, city manager to put a RFQ request to build a parking garage with a private-public partnership in the next, put it out in the next 90 days. If we already have one, should that be pretty easy?
I'll second that.
You put where on that?
Put an RFQ out on the streets.
Where? What
To get-
location? Just for the clarification.
Oh, I need to give that specific?
If you want to.
The Zerby Cyber down there.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Got a second? Any further discussions? Destin, jump on in.
The reason the public-private partnership didn't go anywhere is because the private part wanted us to give them, I don't know how many stories of commercial/residential on top or below. My recommendation, and I'll make a substitute motion, is that we put it out just for a consultant to tell us how to go about with a public.
I would be happy to make that change.
Okay.
And I'll second it.
In the next 90 days, is that still acceptable?
I think so. Are we going to limit ourselves to the one location? We had got 2 locations in town, so.
Sounds good to me.
Sorry, real
Yep,
quick,
jump on
one
in.
thing on that. Can we have a say-so over the facade of the parking garage, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we're
Way
not
down
gonna
the
have
line,
another boxed concrete building? Well, I just wanna make sure in the beginning that we are gonna be able to
Yeah, I've
have a
just been hearing about
say-so
parking
on.
garages for a long time, and I just wanted to see if we could, let's see.
Yeah,
We take
no,
and
I
get one.
agree.
Let's do it.
I just think with where it's going to be at, if it is there, when
make
you're
it pretty.
mourning a family member at the cemetery, who wants to look at a big concrete
I'm with
structure?
you.
So, okay, good.
All right. Without further discussion, calling the vote. And just from a confirmation. All right, ayes have it, so
Thank you.
moved.
Jeff, do we have any status on the Calhoun Park submission with Treasury?
No, don't have any updates. I have asked for one, but I haven't got anything back from the county. I know when I talked to Jane a while ago, she said it wouldn't be uncommon for something like that to sit at the portal for 6 months or more, though.
And this is the submission that we've already submitted once, years ago,
Right, which had to be completely re-entered.
and then we had to stop because they changed their process,
They added the portal and.
added a portal.
Yeah.
Then we had to re-update our designs that
Yeah.
Ryan said we weren't meeting code on some things, so we had to kind of update it a little bit.
Yeah, the design required updating.
And so the
and,
money's been earmarked for us.
Yeah, the project itself's been approved at the
Approved.
board level, but it just hasn't gotten through the process of being allocated at treasury level.
Was there any portal submissions for like beach acquisitions and things like that?
Well, no,
How are we able to do that so quickly?
It's a federal portal. It's
Federal?
U.S. Treasury.
Okay,
All of that was done at the local level.
local. What about the Joe's Bayou? We gotten that quicker, I feel like, than this.
Well, that's a
State?
that's state level, DEP.
Okay. So the blame is on the portal still. Is there anything we can do, let me ask you this then, let me kind of try to rephrase this. To get a result sooner, if the project's approved, if the money's earmarked, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, why can we not start the process to working with the new project manager to start this and then get paid back later, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. It'll take us 6 months just to get a design or whatever, or work with them, right?
Well, we have the design already.
So can we not start and then just deal with the money later?
I was told that could jeopardize your funding. If you do something that they determine is.
Same thing
eligible-
about jeopardizing the linear park with the road that we were gonna try to do? That could jeopardize the funding, but we were gonna go forward with that.
I don't see the correlation, I'm sorry.
We don't have a notice to proceed on Clement Taylor Park from the feds yet.
Man, I think I've been asking about Clement Taylor Park for 2 years. This is very frustrating. Okay? Got a lot of people asking about that park, wanting to get it cleaned up. Is there anything that we can do, Jeff, to help? Notice to proceed, how do we get that? Can we help get that?
I'm not sure what steps we would take, other than having the county specifically ask, if there's any
Right.
way they can expedite, they are the recipient, so.
Right.
They would have to be the ones that initiate that communication.
Okay. Well, I'd like to make a motion to direct city manager to work with you to bring back at the next meeting the plans to initiate a start of the project. Can we do that?
Well, we can't start the project until we have a subaward from the county.
Or can we get the plans? Just, when can we start the process to start the project?
Well, the county won't start their process until they have the award from the treasury. And they won't give us a subaward until that point.
Ryan, are you the one who
Okay.
has done the design
right.
work?
I guess it's all right. I'm the only one that wants the park to be finished and start, I guess, so it's all right.
Jenkins designed it, by the way.
Jenkins
All right, I'll move
designed
on.
it?
What's
Yeah,
this?
Can we see the designs from Jenkins?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I know we all have opinions up here, what it probably is going to look like.
We don't want to go down that road
I,
because it's already been
I
done.
know that they have the original designs. Teresa and I both were very
Oh, I haven't seen them.
involved in this, as we were both on Parks and Recreation at the time. Yeah, the biggest holdup was the issue with the fire department, which that was resolved. In doing so, we did go to the bottom of the list, so it took us a lot longer to get the money back to where we could have a start date. So that really has been a number one question of mine is, that was 3 years ago now?
I just was.
So what is the holdup at this point?
the portal.
We've wrote letters, the portal. Okay, what,
It's the submission of the application to get the award of the project.
right,
So
so, I mean, I have to jump on with Kevin with this, where do we go from here? Sandy, do you have,
So what we need to do is we need to get the Fed to issue the notice to proceed to the county so that the county can give us the subaward. And so I'm happy to call the county administrator and see if he can help push this along. But, I mean, until the Fed does issue that, we're stuck.
may I ask that Sandy Trammell, the president of Parks and Rec, if she has anything to add to this that could clarify?
Jump on up.
My suggestion to you is, the feds are holding it up, you go to your federal representatives, and you get them on board with the county and the city, and all three of you sit down at a meeting and go
Yeah.
there.
I hear you, and I hear that, but the problem is for the past year or so that I've been asking about this, the dots don't connect, Sandy.
What
Okay?
dots don't connect?
The county was told to wait until we finished the park on the harbor. But then we were told, no, we never said that. So
Have we finished
I'm just
that?
hoping if y'all could bring us back at the next meeting, some more clear answers. from
That's-
Federal government, state government, whoever government.
Well, why don't you appoint somebody up here to sit in with them?
Yeah.
My
Gotcha.
suggestion.
Let me make a motion directing staff to bring back a resolution that we will send to our two federal senators and to our Representative Gates, and have us vote on that and send it to them. At least they will have to answer us, I'm sure.
Sure, sounds fun.
Second
that.
All right, any further discussions on the letter? Seeing none, calling the vote.
What's the status of the Crosstown Connector?
Oh, hold up, got to vote on your,
Okay.
Oh. I got slapped last time for doing that.
I got a lot of questions. Sorry, Johnny. Sorry, Johnny. I got a lot of questions. I got a lot of questions. I'm sorry. I'm almost done.
I have one job. It's not to allow sunshine law violation.
Button. I just have it so
All right,
moved.
Crosstown Connector, the one property that we're holding up with, is that going to cause any delays while we're still trying to get it?
I had an opportunity recently to speak with the lady that owns that property.
Okay.
And she is interested in selling it and working with us, as she said on the phone anyway. She asked that Marcia Hayes contact her today. I talked to her Friday. She asked that Marcia talk to her today, and I don't know, I haven't got a report that, as to whether that happened or not.
Right.
But it does sound like there is some dialogue now, and that
Good.
process is starting.
Well, thank you, Jeff, for calling her. I appreciate it.
We had our code compliance and the sheriff's office go do a wellness check, and I guess it took them quite a while to get her to answer the door, but once she did, we exchanged information with her, and I think that's moving forward now.
Awesome. Ray, did we set a date for the code workshop?
With what workshop, sir?
The code, we were going to have a workshop on code, LDC items, flags and things like that.
Oh, no, I discussed that with Louis and the city manager, and we have some dates, I believe, that we can offer
Do we have those dates right now?
in June. I gave Mr. Sangusi the calendar, so if he's ready to provide some,
Do you mind sending me those options tomorrow if I could give some feedback since I was the legislative sponsor of that workshop? Is that acceptable?
Sure.
Is that okay? Cool. Okay, sounds good. What about the city center RFQ? Where are we at with that one, Jeff? Design, the city center design RFQ.
We have 3 firms that have been invited to come do presentations on the 15th. And at that time, I'm hoping the council will feel like selecting one of those 3 to move forward with negotiations.
So on May 15th, 3 firms are coming to give presentations or submitting some type of presentation?
No, they'll be here physically to do about a 10 to 15-minute presentation, and then you'll have an opportunity to ask questions when they're done.
Is that a requirement put forth by somebody? Because DAG didn't do any presentation.
Yeah, when you've got multiple bidders, Florida statute requires 3 presentations at least.
Live?
Yes.
Okay. And then on May 15th, we'll be able to approve one?
Yes.
Do we just vote, make a motion to approve one?
You have to rank them 1, 2, 3 under the statute.
Okay. If we ask for that to be on May 15th's agenda, do we need to put that in motion form, whether they can come or not?
I've already invited them.
Okay. And what happens if one of them says, I can't come, they just get dropped? Right. Well, I'd like to make a motion to have on the May 15th agenda the presentations of the 3 RFQ submissions presented to the city council.
All right, I have a motion on the table.
I'll second.
With a second, further discussions? I think he's just confirming the
I'm just
confirm.
confirming because it's been quite some time that we've been waiting for this $50,000 design that we were able to do the other one pretty quickly. I'm just wanting to put something on paper.
Do we have those presentations with Jeff?
We don't have the presentations yet, but I have talked to all 3 just last week and set this up with them, and so I don't think there'll be any issue.
All right.
It is agenda.
It is.
It is agenda.
We're following the statute, it's agenda, we're following our procurement policy. It's good to
We're
go.
going to make a motion to agenda what's already agended?
Exactly. There you
I don't
go.
know, can the
Alright, I
city
think
manager
I
pull
know
things
how
from
to
the
vote on
agenda and postpone it? I don't know. Okay. Oh, sorry.
All right, calling the vote. Go with your gut. All right, I have it so moved.
Right. I apologize, yeah. One last thing. I know we had a recent change with the deputy city manager, and as we're coming up on the budget season is coming to us, I'd like to make a motion to have the city manager postpone any job ads or hirings for the deputy city manager position until the July budget workshop session.
I second that.
All right, got a motion and second. Further discussions on?
I'm required by my contract to let you know if I disagree with the move that you're going to make, and I totally disagree with this move. The budget is a legal document that was approved by council with that position included.
That's fine. I'm just.
Okay, any other further discussions? Jump on in.
I hope we're not clashing over semantics. I have no problem with an assistant to help the city manager until we get into the budget process. But as far as going forward to hire the deputy, that'll be contingent upon a vote of the council anyway. He needs an assistant to help between now and the budget process. I don't have opposition to that, but I'm not sure that I would approve a deputy at this time, but if he wants to. I got you.
Yeah, I would
Change
agree.
the title.
I would agree with Mr. Destin on that.
So, city manager, is that giving you enough direction, or are you set on hiring a deputy in the next month or two?
No, that's okay. I didn't want to mislead the council. We've already advertised for this position, so we're already receiving applications for this position, so the process has begun.
I'm curious. I thought that was something that we would be a part of, though. I didn't even know that you'd put it out to hire somebody yet.
That is an administrative function of my office, and it is approved in the budget for this fiscal year. And I don't come to the council for any other department heads to start the process. I do bring you the final candidates, absolutely.
All right, so the motion on the table is,
Postpone hiring and job ads for the deputy city manager position.
Let me ask another question. If it is a budgeted item, and the city attorney can tell us, how do we prohibit the hiring of that without changing the budget, which we fully have the authority to do?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you do. You can amend the budget through your normal amendment processes if that's what you wanted to do. But for this position, like you stated, Councilmember Dustin, this is one that would get brought back for confirmation anyway, so.
Well, I will make a substitute motion that we go through the amendment process. That will give all of us time to talk to the city manager and bring that amendment back. Meanwhile, he can have a full discussion with all the council members on the issue.
Second.
second? All right, so that is the current motion on the table. We will call that vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. All right, thank you.
I have a question, though. There was a second part of that, right?
Because that one won, does the other one die?
Yeah, it was a substitute motion.
Yeah,
this
that's
time.
what I figured. Okay, I'm starting to get the hang of this. All right, any further questions, Kyle? All right, I'll take that as a no. All right, so the annexation policy, I know that was going to get brought up to us in December or January, and we've kind of held off as we work with the county on other topics. So I'm ready to have the annexation policy brought forth. We've had a pretty good dialogue of what that plan would look like, at least for Commons. And we've had some preliminary work done at the Community Development Department. So I'd just be asking for a motion to add the original annexation policy under the land use attorney's, under her name for next council meeting.
So move, I'll make that motion.
And I'll second that
All
motion.
right, discussion?
Just a quick question. The policy I prepared back in December or whenever it was for the process. It wasn't specific to certain properties.
Correct.
Is that what you want, or do you also want,
I would love both, but I was
Okay.
gonna go one at a time and not try to steamroll it. But
Okay.
yeah, I would love to start the annexation process, the enclave process of Commons Drive,
As well.
west of Home Depot. So any other further clarification or help up here?
no, I guess not. So you do want both?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You cool with that?
Yeah, that's my motion.
All right.
I still second it.
Yep, jump in. I know, I'm letting go.
Okay, explain to me a little bit more in detail. Are we going to do the process, or are we aiming at these two particular properties?
The process, what I had prepared a few months ago before it got put on hold was a policy that incorporated state law for the city, what application materials have to be submitted, what an applicant for an annexation would have to do, and mirrors what the statute requires, and then just provides a little more specifics for Destin. That was the policy. But then staff had also prepared a staff report that discussed certain properties and kind of a takedown schedule, so to speak, of what would be first grouping, enclave, second grouping, third. And so I think what the mayor is suggesting is he also wants to see information on that first grouping of the enclaves and to get that started. So what I would foresee bringing back is the policy that incorporates state law and then information in the form of a staff report on how to proceed with the county on the enclaves.
Okay, and we have to have cooperation of the county on enclave, right?
I think
That's
that is
one
the goal.
process. Go ahead, you're the attorney.
I mean, that is the goal as the first grouping, to work with the county and see if we can enter into an interlocal.
Well, I just love putting you off on these tilting at windmills, so I'll vote yes.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, calling the vote. Then Matthew, it hasn't registered. Thank you. I just have it so moved. All right, on the next one, you can just cross off with volunteers. Me and the Parks Department had a thorough conversation with this, so I guess my second ask is I appreciate everyone going forward with the first field over at Morgan's, the soccer field most north. We approved that $70,000, and that should be happening later this month. She's nodding yes, thank you. But at this time, with the fees raising and everything else raising, and us never having completed any renovations over at Morgan Sports Center, I'm just wanting to ask if we could direct city manager to work with the Parks Department to see the quote for resodding the additional 2 fields, so we can see what that estimate looks like and if we have the juice to squeeze that money out.
Lisa, what's that 2, 3, 4-year schedule to do all the sodding, right? Aren't you already thinking about that? What, do you mind reminding me?
I believe we're planning on having the, about 145 for the other 2 fields in our discussion tomorrow for next year, 2024.
So this current year, we were doing that 1, and then next year, potentially, we're doing the 2, and it's already on the next 5-year
It
budget.
is.
So in all theory, how many years will it take to do all the soccer football fields over there? 3-ish?
Yeah, maybe 2.
Right, 2 maybe. Okay.
Didn't know that, thank you. Okay, so now I'll back off.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, if we got a plan, we got a
You're good?
plan.
All right.
Yep. All right, we got 2 weeks. Anything else I can think of on the spot? No, I won't do that to you. All right, land use attorney.
Just one item with respect to the property by the bridge. At the last council meeting, you asked the city manager and I to reach out to the Trust for Public Land and the property owner and see if this was something that the council wanted to pursue as far as a potential acquisition. So we did that. And just to inform the council, the asking price initially on the property is $12 million, which is significantly over our appraisal amount. So my suggestion is that the council decide if they are interested in pursuing this, and if you remain interested, I would suggest that you could make a motion to authorize Lance and I to continue to negotiate with them and to try to enter into a contract that would, of course, be subject to council approval with a purchase price as close to our appraisal as we could obtain. And if we do feel it's necessary to obtain a second appraisal, I believe it would be under Lance's spending authority. So just an FYI, we may do that as well.
All right, I got Councilwoman Teresa.
Thanks, Mayor. I would like to make that motion on behalf, but I also want to make sure that we do keep it as close to the appraisal value, because, you know, we're doing things for our citizens. They pay taxes, and that's kind of where some of this money comes from. So we don't want to overpay for something with the appraisal, but I definitely would like to give you and Lance authorization to at least go try and work something out and get the cost back to the appraisal area.
Second
of course,
that.
best.
With a motion and a second.
Yeah, just one comment, and of course, a negotiating point to make is if it goes too far over the appraisal, then it takes an extraordinary vote of the council, which probably is unlikely. So the seller should bear that in mind.
And then, just within the negotiations, would this be a good time to figure out if there's any grant opportunities or what we could do with the land to create grant opportunities?
Yeah, I think Lance and I would be meeting with Crystal and Jeff and other directors that are looking at capital projects in the city, so we'd be looking at funding options and those things.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I would suggest you talk to our friends at FDOT. They've already given us how many millions of dollars to acquire right-of-ways for the crosstown. And they say building a new Destin Bridge is in their plan for, I don't know, 10 years or whatever it is. So if we went together with them later on, they may in fact be very happy that we have acquired it.
All right, good
I
point.
would personally just like to say that I support this 100%. I would love to see our sign not look like we're entering a prison. And that's a beautiful spot right there for a park of some sort. So let's do this.
Yeah, I'm going to call the vote, and I got a question that doesn't really pertain to the vote, but it does pertain to the parcel. So I'm going to call the vote first, and then I'll keep going with that real quick. Awesome. Ayes have it, so moved. And then, so on that parcel, we have a billboard with Lamar that approached all of us. And I was under the assumption that they're approaching us because the end of their lifespan is growing near. Is that something that we can determine if that lifespan has been met and that it is now a safety hazard and they need to be taken down? What does that look like in a code? Or this can be something we talk about throughout the week. I don't put you on the spot if this is like a very detailed, complex answer.
I think I'm going to defer to the building official as
Yeah,
to
she
whether
was
she
grabbing the
can,
mic.
whether she can determine
I want
the
a demo.
structural integrity of the
I want that
billboard.
structural integrity.
I might have to lean towards a consultant to actually give me the structural integrity of that sign. I am not an engineer specialist in structural, so to actually determine whether that large Lamar sign is structurally unsafe, I would, like I said, I would have to lean to some expertise.
Is that somewhere you need a direction from this council? Because they seemed very eager to strike a deal with us for multiple signs in the area, and I'm assuming that means the lifespan's out and they're looking for a next jump on the lily pad.
So I'll just jump in. And yes, the answer to that is yes, we would need some authorization from council to get that, if that's what you all want. But with respect to the Lamar proposal and where that went, they have reached out and asked to schedule a presentation before you all at an upcoming meeting. So that is going to be coming, and you could be asking whatever questions you need to. We haven't received their final proposal yet. We've asked for it before they come to you, so.
I mean, it would take you guys to make that motion, but, you know, if they're going to come and, if they're going to come and talk to us about it, I'd love to know what we have under our power and what we see it, so we have some leverage as well while they're negotiating.
I'll make that motion. Is that you good?
Well, I'll make a comment after the vote.
I'll make a motion that we get Lamar in here to present to us what they're going to do with those signs and what the structural integrity of those are as well.
Second.
Does that work? Is that enough? You
Yes.
said structural integrity.
Yes, it is. I don't know if it was the same thing you were saying. That was going to be my question.
Yeah, no,
I thought you were saying you wanted the structural integrity information first.
Yes, I mean, I would like to have it before they, or during the same meeting that they
Okay.
present.
Okay.
So that we know exactly the lifespan, whether it's already done or if they have years left. So we know exactly what we're negotiating.
Got it.
Yes,
Comment?
yep,
Did we get a second?
yep, we're in.
Okay. If the motion is to direct Lamar to come and talk to us about what they propose, I think they were already proposing to remove.
They were going to remove that one.
Yeah, but as far as it negotiating with the property owner, that's probably not a real good way to start out. We're going to take your revenue-generating billboard away. So I would rather that we just have Lamar come and make their presentation rather than to start strong-arming them and the property owner before we even open up a negotiation. That's not a good idea.
All right, well,
In the city's defense, I'm just going to say that that was going on before we talked about purchasing the property. So there's no intent to strong-arm the property owner, but to your point, we can certainly put that off.
yeah, no, and I definitely, that was just a bad timing on my end. I had that on, so I just wanted to bring that up, that I didn't know if they walked away. And if they walked away, I was assuming, I was under the impression if they weren't coming, that they kind of realized that, you know, their billboards are done.
I think they wanted to meet with as many council members as possible up front, and some were interested in meeting and some weren't, and so they wanted to see that through before they came.
Gotcha.
Plus, we need their final proposal, and what Louis and I have asked for is, what's your best offer? Because I haven't seen it change yet, and it's been a couple of years now.
Yeah, yeah, so that's kind of where my going with that motion was what's really your best offer, because we know exactly where your cards are. Yep, all right, thank you, so calling the
And
vote,
if I could add one more thing, I'm sorry.
jump on in. I got you what you needed, what else you need?
I just want to let you know that, one, I'm going to have to get permission from the current owners of the property in order to set foot on the property with possibly a consultant to look at this sign. So keep that in mind.
That's step foot, do you need a drone? Because FAA, that's different airspace.
I
Well,
think perhaps the understanding was that we were going to postpone that. So that's not a question that
Yeah.
even needs to be answered.
No, that's fine, yeah. Yeah, no, if it's gonna look bad, I'd rather get the land and be good stewards of negotiation.
Yep.
We will just drop the billboard issue. Let Lamar come and make their presentation when they feel like it, not direct anything, and we will just focus on the potential acquisition and seeing if we can get that purchase price closer to our appraised value.
All right, so we're just gonna kill the motion, or we're gonna
We're
vote?
voting to have Lamar come in.
Okay,
That's what we're voting on.
The motion, I hope, is just,
but,
Have Lamar come present.
the motion is to have Lamar to come sooner rather than later and tell us what it is they're going to do.
yep,
Yes.
yeah.
Very good.
All right, ayes have it, so moved. City Attorney?
Yeah, I got one thing. We had a settlement that came to us on Friday, so after the agenda was published, so I'm going to go through my little spiel on calling an executive session. Hopefully y'all can give me a motion here at the end. Pursuant to Section 286.011-8, request to discuss settlement negotiations and strategy related to litigation expenditures in the matter of Scott Barish for City of Destin 3:22 CV 21061-TKW-2 CD, U.S. District Court, Northern District of Florida. I request an executive session to take place at 5:30 p.m. on May 15th, 2023, in City Council Annex. So if I could just get a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Motion is second, further discussion, seeing none? All right, ayes have it, so moved. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we have public comments. If you made it this far, I'm assuming you got something to say. So I'm going to start on my right.
Come on up.
This was not just for your entertainment value.
Yeah, hello, Jim Green, 824 North Lakeside Drive, Chairman of the Harbor CRA, Chairman of the Capacity Study, member of the Board of Harbor and Watersway. I'm here today to talk about these speed humps. And I'm just telling you that it kind of made my point listening to this discussion up here. Oh, I want some, and oh, that's great. They're $12,000 a pop. There's six seconds to stop every fire truck or EMS that's going over them or police car. We're turning the city into a big speed hump. You know, I mean, there's ways to change behavior, more enforcement. Whenever we change the speed limit on Airport Road, we put that sign up there that clocks you. A lot of people don't realize how fast they're going. It's not so much that they're trying to speed, it's that they're hands-free talking, drinking their latte, and they're cruising down talking to somebody, and these cars now have 9, 10 speed transmissions, and that thing just coasts. And I know, I just bought one, and I had to reteach myself how to drive. So I think that, if we took every speed hump in this town and cut it up, we could pretty much pave the entire crosstown connector. And I think that we're getting like teenage drunk on iPhone. I want one. And I'm not saying that there aren't places that need it. Schools, parks, places where but the speed hump only works in that vicinity. We're talking about putting one on Main Street. Main Street's 3 miles long or 2.5 miles long. It's only going to slow them down in that one section. I live on a road with speed humps, and you stop and I mean, if you live near one, you're going to hear this exhaust off trucks, and you're going to hear cars speeding up, and it might stop it right there, but it doesn't affect the rest of the road. I live on North Lakeside. There's some in Misty Way. Those people are still coming around that corner way faster than where the speed hump is. So, I mean, and unless you're going to put speed humps on every road, everywhere, why don't we have them on 98 if they work so well? I'm just saying, well, let's be consistent. If we're going to be consistent, why do we keep putting them everywhere? At $12,000 lick, and we're trying to find somewhere in the budget to pull $12,000 to put more speed humps. There's far more things we can do. Having the sheriff put their little sign out there that flashes the lights, or the one that's permanent on Airport Road. There's a lot of different things we can do besides just put these things everywhere. Everywhere you turn, there's another one. And I get it. Animals get hit, and there are people that drive bad in this town, but all of us that don't drive that way shouldn't pay the price because there's a couple a-holes. So, let's tone this down, and let's try to use some other ways of finding this, whether it's enforcement or we set up a way to where people can notify the city that there's a place of nuisance or a place that needs to be focused on these types of things. But really and truly, you've seen them in the harbor and waterways. I've made motions I don't know if y'all read them or not, but that's a good way to test it. I make motions on every time I put it in there in the last year, I think. And it's just something that we really need to take a different look at. We shouldn't have to just spend $12,000. I mean, that sign on Airport Road wasn't $12,000. And there's different ways that we can address
What did you
this.
have in mind instead of the speed limit bumps to stop people from?
Just told us that the signs and there's other ways to calm the traffic. That's you, Jimbo.
All right, and that's your time.
I was asked a question.
Yeah.
He asked me a question. I know that it's your pet project, but my thing would be to start asking them to enforce it. If there's a problem area, then we have more enforcement in that area, or a presence. Sometimes just a presence of police officers sitting on the side of the road slows them down. And I think the little trailer they bring around and they clock people on, and it flashes the lights. We had one up by the elementary school last year, and I see a lot of people on Airport Road, when they get up there and that thing starts flashing at them, they're like, whoa.
Right.
And you see them break down. So I think there's ways we can do this without permanently putting speed bumps all over the road.
Hey, that's a good point.
I
When they
agree.
put a cop car at the Joe's Bayou Park right there on Main Street when I was 17 years old, buddy, I slowed
You didn't
down.
drive down that road anymore. I know.
I had to drive. I lived down the end of that road. I lived down Indian Bayou North, and I had to go down there, and I did.
Well, I lived on
But-
Indian Trail too, and they parked one right there in front of Mossy Oak Apartments, and everybody, you didn't know if you came around that corner if there was going to be a sheriff sitting right there. I mean, I think there's ways to explore, and I like what Michael was talking about, trying to figure out other ways.
Stop signs, other things like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, we had that poor child was ran over, and we put a stop sign there. We didn't put a speed bump, and I think that.
Well, that was a three-way stop, but
Yeah. No, it was a.
Well, we made it a three-way stop.
It was a one-way, yeah.
All right,
one-way.
let's keep this rolling. I don't want to be here at 10.
Well, I've been sitting here
Yeah,
listening
keep
to all
going,
this stuff.
I know, I mean, we got some good ideas
All right.
going, but
I'll leave it in there.
Future
Unless
info?
there's any more questions.
No.
You, Miss Avery, you go? Okay.
all right. Anyone else here for the entertainment? All right, jump on in.
Hello, I'm Stephen Franco. Nice to see you guys again. I was just wanted to make a few comments relative to the upcoming.
What's your address?
I'm sorry, it's 4320 Commons Drive, West. Anyways, the May 15th meeting you mentioned, it's a pretty important meeting coming up here for the city council. Couple things I wanted to mention. To be thinking about. We're going to have these architectural firms here to present to you guys, and it's really important to understand, I think, what we want from them, right? It's about directing them. And I think that what we want to look for is, remember, the first thing we're looking at is, we're talking about a conceptual design. That's the first thing we're talking about, is simply a conceptual design of what we can have. And I think in doing that, I think it's important, whoever we choose, is to make sure the group we're choosing has extensive experience in this, doing these projects, doing a city center, and not only doing them, but doing them in coastal communities and having experience that would represent what we want here. I think the other thing that's very important to point out is that the architects have experience with publics and knowing the important matters to both publics and the city, so that we're able to come to a consensus if we do get into a negotiation with publics or just our own efforts to do something, but knowing what are the hot buttons and have the experience to do that. And then the last couple things here are really just with that experience, I think they'll be able to help guide us in terms of the appropriate densities for the project, and that's going to be relative to cost, revenues, and potentially maybe some subsidies that offset depending on the kind of density we want. So those are some things to point out. I don't know all the three firms. One of the firms that is going to be submitting is a group called Smallwood Rentals. I'm very familiar with them, and they have a phenomenal track record and a lot of experience. So that's all I can add to that. Last couple things I just want to say as it relates to Publix, and I think it's important that it came up before, just to refresh y'all's memory of some of the conversations over the course of the last year, especially in the last 6 to 8 months. There was a meeting last fall in which Mayor Jarvis and staff spoke with Publix, spoke with their representative, and at the time, Mayor Jarvis had made a commitment to work with Publix and assured them at that time that we would. That the city would try to work with them to make sure it was a smooth approval process for Publix and their grocery approval. At the same time, he specifically mentioned the city's desire to create a city center and request we have a first opportunity to purchase land that Publix would not intend to use for its grocery store. I think that's very important. It was a very clear conversation that was had. And then the only thing I would just say is whatever preliminary meeting or submittal or whatever they had a few weeks ago, and the submittal of garden-style apartments, just as they were, was not in alignment with the spirit of the discussion at that time. And I think y'all should just be aware of that, and however you choose to proceed, that's up to y'all. But that's my 2 cents. Thank you. Thank you.
You do understand that Publix has given us in writing that they have no intention of selling property to us, right?
They don't, well, my opinion is this, they don't have to sell you the property, but there are conditional uses that the city council may have in which to make approvals. And then the other thing that candidly, if you want to take it a step further, is that if it's something that you guys don't want or that the city does not want, citizens or whoever, that there are steps that the city could take too in terms of public use of the property if you all decided to go that route. That's up to you guys, but I don't think the city council and I don't think the city should be bullied by Publix, personally. I think, so.
Bullied either, and we have no intention of doing such.
No, I don't think we should bully
But to, to continue to follow the dream that they're going to give us property until they say that they might, then, well, they have said no in writing. But until they say yes, then we can continue to talk. But it's very difficult to see how this is going to come out to anything when they have in writing told us they won't. And, that's just the situation we find ourselves in right now.
Well, I guess the question I'd ask you guys is, are you going to accept what they want to submit at this time? And that's, if you're willing to accept garden-style apartments, and that's what you guys want to accept, that's up to you. If there is other means within the realm of what the city has to do, then that's,
Okay, well, just to jump in, let's just end that conversation here, because it will be, if they apply, it will be a quasi-judicial, and you'll be allowed to speak, as will everybody else. But if we talk about it now, we might be depriving someone of some future due process, so.
Can I just ask for Mr. Destin, he mentioned that there's writing, that they said this. Could y'all provide that to us?
They have a what?
He said that they've submitted in writing that they are not interested in selling to the city of Destin. Could y'all provide that to us?
We can provide it, yeah, and I thought I did forward it to council, but
We
maybe
got
I
an
didn't.
email from Dalton Locke, but that didn't say that, so I'd like to see whatever he's talking about.
That's the email, I believe, that Councilmember Destin is talking about to Lewis. When
It doesn't
Lewis
necessarily portray Mr.
Lewis
Destin, what
reached
you're
out
saying.
to his contact at Publix and asked if they were interested in selling to us, and asked for an asking price, and they indicated that they were interested in apartments. We have had subsequent meetings with Publix and explained that there are requirements for apartments that include a commercial or a non-residential component, and that it's a conditional use that would have to meet code criteria and would come back to council as a quasi-judicial item. It is not a permitted use in the zoning district, so that is what it is.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Man, you guys are just here to hang out. I appreciate that. Oh, all right. I thought she was getting up. All right, at this time.
Hey, before you close out, let me say one thing. Happy birthday, Kim Cobb. Happy 25th
Happy
birthday.
Wednesday's birthday, Kim.
Good to be old enough to drink and vote now.
Yay!
All right,
We
meeting
love
adjourned.
you.